Hey, everybody, I'm Mike.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Andrew.
Yes.
And this is the Board Game Rundown, and we are live from two of our basements and the ninth floor because we cover games from top to bottom.
Nice.
There we go.
Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You guys do a great job.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you very
no,
much.
you don't have to say that. You don't have to say that. But
All right, you do a mediocre job, but you entertain. How about that?
there we go. Well, I'll take it.
Yes.
I'll take it.
Now we're getting the honesty.
I'm super excited actually to have Andrew on ever since Gen Con or Origins even? Origins.
It
I'm
was
like,
Origins,
Andrew, when are you
yeah.
going to come on the show? And you're like, well, let me get a game, that I can
At least
announce.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But, and you now have a game announced.
Yeah, I'm not just chilling for my podcast. I'm now out there with design to show. And I'm super excited because 1 week from now I'll be at Tantrum Con and I will have a physical copy of the game to do demos.
Awesome.
So I'm super excited.
That is
Awesome.
amazing. That's got to feel good, right? Like a
I cannot
dream
wait.
realized.
I'm going to be a fashion model with it. I imagine I'm going to take so many pictures. It's not funny. I'm going to be doing selfies with everybody playing it. I'm going to do just whatever. I'm going to soak that moment in as much as a human possibly can.
So
As you should.
So it's called Wine Cellar.
Yeah.
CELLAR, not like you're selling wines, but
we had that conversation early in the design, and I decided it's more important that you notice that it's about how the wine ages than it is about the auction.
Nice. How long have you been working on Wine Cellar?
So it doesn't feel fair to answer this question that way because it was probably maybe 6 months to get it refined after the first concept, right? So like maybe it took a month to put the first prototype on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Took about 6 months to run it through. And then it was about confirming play testing. Oh, there it is.
Oh,
right
sure.
there. So great.
Look at that.
And then, it took another 3 months or so of sending it to publishers to find its right audience, right? Like, I feel like this game is just about for everybody, but of course, every publisher wants different things and different things like that. And I'm so thankful that 25th Century picked it up because, as you can see, they do an amazing job with their art. Like,
you ain't kidding, man.
Ted's got great taste. You've got Vincent Dutrait to do it. I couldn't be happier. It looks gorgeous. I'm super excited.
I would say that is a successful pairing all in itself, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I'm very, very blessed. I also have a second game with him coming in the future that I can't talk about just yet. But that one also will have Vincent Dutrait art on it.
Good.
So I got 2-1 on that deal, and I'm feeling very, very good about that. So,
you better go buy a scratch-off ticket, man, because you're just...
I think last year, 25th Century really hit a lot of people's radars because of that reprint of Ra. They did
of course.
Absolutely phenomenal job with that game and the components and the art. They just crushed it.
Yeah, there's no reason to own any other copy. In fact, if you own the other copies, you should sell it to somebody who's never played it before so you can buy that copy. That's the only one that makes sense.
Yeah. For sure. No, that's awesome. I'm really excited that to hear that, and also with a publisher that basically every game of theirs that I have bought, I have loved. So, just sounds like, okay, well, this is going to keep being good.
He did confess that he did his own troubleshooting before the show.
Oh, did I buffer?
Don't give us the Tim of old.
Did I buffer? I didn't see it. Am I buffering
Yes.
now? I didn't even see it. Usually I get the thing saying I was buffering. Well, don't worry. I was just saying horrible things about Andrew, so you missed it all, but I won't repeat it.
That's good.
No, real quick story, and then we can kind of get into stuff. But I was lucky enough. Mike was there, but bailed before Andrew got there. We were at Origins late night dev session. Andrew comes up in a suit jacket.
Met Andrew.
Okay, did you that night? Did you?
Yeah.
I thought you left before he got there. Mm-mm. So Andrew comes strolling up. He's got his lucky jacket on, right? That was your lucky jacket, and just cool as cucumber. And we're all just throwing out ideas for mechanics on this game that a company was looking at, signing. And Andrew just starts throwing out ideas, and I'm like, "Who is this ringer that just like strolled up?" Because they were all like great ideas. I'm like, "Who is this guy?" So I asked.
It's easy to be comfortable when you're 6 or 7 drinks in. So yeah, that made a difference.
And also, you were in a safe space, right? West was there.
Key to the show.
You knew a ton of people there, because like the next day I asked Giuliano, I was like, so who was that dude that rolled up late in the jacket and like just started shooting out like these great ideas? He's like, oh, that's Andrew. You should meet him, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so then I made a point to like say, hey, I thought it was really cool. And actually we did a on-camera interview with you, I believe.
Yeah, we talked about the podcast. We talked about storytelling. We talked about all the cool stuff that happens after hours like that. And we talk about all the really cool stories that happen over drinks that most people don't get to hear. So I literally created a podcast called The Tabletop Submarine just so we could share those stories or try to pry them out of people's mouths who come on the show anyway. So yeah.
Usually you guys get people going and they just want to go. And then
that's the hope.
But yeah, no, your podcast is great. It's very entertaining. I actually in a weird nerdy thing to compliment you on, but I love like the production value. Like I love the segues and the sound effects. Like I love all of that. Like,
yeah, Josh and I got together and we did a little bit of that to begin with, but I give him 90% of credit. I think I forced him to change the music to something a little more pleasant, but he really nailed the sound effects. I give him full credit. He did a great job. His production style is pretty solid.
And then you guys
in a roundabout way is telling me to step it up, but that's okay.
Well, hold on. They have dynamite guests. We have dynamite guests. I mean, we're okay. We're trying to shoot for mediocre. We're not aiming for the stars here. We just
then you're nailing it. I just feel like we haven't talked about what we're drinking yet.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Andrew, why don't you go first since you were the connoisseur?
Well, I realize this is Whiskey Wednesday, but I had to step up for my wine cellar. So I'm drinking a nice Spanish cava here. And I've dropped in just a little touch of mango juice because it's tropical here and I'm not in the cold weather like the rest of you guys.
I was going to ask you because I know that you live close to us regionally, but you are in warmer climes. You are in double to triple.
Nomad. I'm a digital nomad and I've decided that I want to see as little snow as possible. So my wife and I we both work remotely, so we can go if we want to. And I think going forward into perpetuity, we're just going to be different places. And so right now I'm in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
That sounds awful. Well, I am wearing thermal gear under a t-shirt because it was -2 when I got up this morning to go to work. And now it's like super warm. It's like 17 degrees.
There you go.
That's a heat wave. Mm-hmm.
It's only getting better. Oh, no, excuse me, 15 degrees, but still, it was close.
All right, so I'm drinking wine. I'm assuming you both are drinking bourbon. Mike, what do you got?
Actually, I've been mixing it up a little bit lately.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Tim and I have had a conversation about how I maybe have overindulged here over the last couple of months. So I'm like, let's tame it down a touch. Yes, it does make for a better show when you're 6 or 7 drinks in. However, what I did bring with me is a bourbon barrel craft beer from Founders. This is the CBS.
Nice.
CBS is an imperial stout brewed with chocolate and coffee, aged in bourbon barrels with maple syrup.
I am a huge fan of bourbon barrel aging in beers. I will drink all of them and any of them anytime. I prefer a little less on the coffee side, but I totally respect it.
I also love bourbon barrels in my craft beer, particularly the stouts. I'm a dark beer guy myself, but I like a lot of them. I like the hoppy stuff too, but definitely prefer more creamy, stouts, porters, and things like that.
Have you had the Pilgrim's Dole by any chance?
Ooh, no.
That one
from Founders?
I don't think it's from Founders. I think.
Gotcha.
I think it's. Now I'm on the spot and I'm totally forgetting where it's from. But,
that's all right.
That's one of my favorites.
Okay. Yeah, look that up.
Maybe from Holland. I think it's from New Holland.
Oh, what's it called again?
Pilgrim's Dole.
Okay.
This is not
New Holland. Good call. That's an hour north of us.
Yeah.
I love that place. It's amazing. Holland, Michigan is a wonderful place.
Yeah, it's a limited release. I think it comes out right before Thanksgiving every year, and they don't have a lot of it. So if you see it, you got to snatch it, otherwise it's gone. But
Very
that
cool.
might be my favorite bourbon barrel beer.
Nice. Okay. Wow. Okay. Um,
Much like my list tonight, I have the palate of a savage. So like I like a Pilsner.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not what I'm drinking tonight. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've got much better traits. It's just not my taste in food or beverage. But I am drinking the last of my Old Forester Kentucky bourbon right here, 100 proof. Um, Unlike Mike, I'm not dialing it back. I'm just same as I ever was, I guess. But
did
I like
you
Old Forester. I think it is the best of the low. So I respect where you're at. You picked it up a little bit, and I
uh-huh.
appreciate just that little notch above. Well
Mm-hmm.
done, sir.
Thank you.
speaking of our particular region, what a lot of people may not realize is that Michigan is a fantastic beer state.
Oh,
So
calm
much to the
down.
point,
Oh, wait,
so
you said
much to
beer
the point,
state? Okay, hold on.
beer state. So much to the point when I travel other places and go to breweries, I have many times found I can't find the quality of beer that I can find in Southwest Michigan.
Yeah,
There are loads of fantastic breweries here.
there really are.
Additionally, what people may not realize is that Southwest Michigan is at the exact latitude as the areas in France where the grapevines are said to be of the highest quality. And
Yep.
so there's a little pocket of Southwest Michigan that has a wine trail 30 miles and roughly 30 wineries or
Yeah.
so.
Hmm.
I've been to about a dozen of those, not all 30, but there's just a fantastic selection of craft beer and wine, very local to us, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it rivals those French wines at all, but it is a fruit corridor, and it is actually one of the best growing regions for fruit in anywhere in the world. So what they make really well is fruit wine, believe it or not. So the quality of their, people might laugh at this as being whatever, but the blueberry wines are actually quite good. The apple wines are spectacular. The ciders in the area are spectacular.
Yeah.
So if you've got, good fruit that you grow really well, use that. And so they do. Um, I will say this: I think the Chardonnay grape might be one of the better grapes that you can grow in this area. So like places like Chateau Chantel is a nice job. They do a great job. Their Chardonnay is actually quite tasty. But there are other places that I recommend everyone all the time, whenever you travel, wherever you go, taste whatever they do well. I don't care if
Mm.
it's beer, I don't care if it's wine, I don't care if it's spirits, whatever it is. When you go to Amsterdam, you got to try the Heineken. Like I'm not saying
Right.
it's great and I'm not saying you're going to love it, but I'm saying it tastes different there. It
It,
tastes different in different places.
when I
And
went to
if you want
Ireland,
to,
it was Guinness, right? It was, and man, it tastes different there than it does stateside. 100%.
yes.
Please continue. I'm sorry. I just got excited
So
about that.
one of the things is I try to, whenever I can, talk about regional and also different things all over the world. Like whenever you can go, wherever you go, I don't care if it's you know the next state over, they've got something cool there. Go find out
Mm-hmm.
what it is, both on the food and the wine side, or the spirit side, or the beer side, or whatever. And the Southwest Michigan beer scene is really special, but Chicago has a great beer scene of its own. I mean, there's a ton of phenomenal breweries right around that whole bottom of Lake Michigan. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goose Island, maybe the most popular, but not the best, I would argue.
Yeah, but their bourbon barrel is pretty spectacular.
Oh, I haven't had that one yet. I think the one that was the one I ended up drinking the most of is the 312, but yeah,
312
they
is
have
is fine in quality. I mean, the reason why it
it's
got picked up by
solid.
Anheuser Busch, but it's not what the craft scene is really about. If you want to,
No.
it's the bourbon barrels by Goose Island, and specifically the barley wine that they do is some of the best beers you can have. Really, really tasty stuff. If you're ever Chicago, just go to the brewery itself,
Mm-hmm.
and they usually have multi-years back stocked. It's not cheap. It'll cost you $25 a bottle, but I'll tell you what, you will have an experience that you won't forget.
Nice.
There you go. Learning new stuff all the time. Mike, this is why I don't hang out with people like me, because I wouldn't if I did, my life would be boring and horrible. No, I hang out with people that are doing cool and exciting things and can give you awesome travel tips. I like that, Andrew, quite a bit.
We do have a list, of course, once again picked, not a list, a topic, once again picked by our guest. Yeah. Andrew, go ahead and tell us about this topic and the now very obvious reason why you picked it.
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen your show a couple of times, and obviously the drinks are a showcase, right? As well they should be. It definitely loosens the tongue. It's a social lubricant. It's all the different things you want it to be. But I also thought, well, guys don't really talk about pairing that often. You don't pair things together. Like, what do you pair with Wingspan? What do you pair with Apiary? What do you pair with Castles of Burgundy? What do you pair with some of these classic games and stuff like that? So I thought, let's have a little fun tonight. Let's do that. Let's pick a game. Let's talk about what we pair with it, whether it be wine, whether it be beer, whether it be chicken nuggets from McDonald's with a sweet and sour sauce, as I'm sure Tim is going to go with that. You never know how it's going to go, but I'm curious what you guys would do with pairing, and I kind of really want to hear from the audience as well. I want to hear what they say about what they would pair with different things.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what Tim pairs with Tombstone Pizza. So,
listen, Tombstone's not usually on sale. DiGiorno's usually on sale.
Jack's?
So, Red Baron. Gotcha. Red Baron's on sale.
Home Run In.
I mean, off the top of my head, I'd pair that with Gunslinger, a classic Avalon Hill miniatures game.
Right.
That would be what I'd pair with Tombstone Pizza, because it's going to taste like the cardboard you're playing with. So I feel like it's a perfect pairing.
Perfect. What do you want on your Tombstone? Well, a board game, please. Yeah, that's about the level of my pairings. No, I think I've got some creative ones.
Okay.
Maybe some. I've got at least one legitimate one. Even if I would not eat personally the food that I have paired with it, it is something
I know where that's going.
That I would prepare for guests. No, it's not that.
Yeah. How do we want to?
Not that one, anyways.
How do we want to go about this? I've got several where I started with, okay, let me just go through like some of my favorite games.
Yeah.
And then pick the food pairing, drink pairings based on that.
Right.
You actually already mentioned a brewery that's on my list, by the way. So we'll get to it.
Nice.
My favorite beer is from a brewery you've already mentioned.
Well, I'll set the tone, and I'll start with my one that I don't think I will get shamed off the show for.
Let's start with non-shaming. That's good.
I'll start with my best one.
Definitely want to hear everybody in the chat. If you got better versions of our pairings, you have your 100%. Own awesome pairings in heaven. That's what we're here to do. Open discussion.
Yeah, totally open discussion. So my first one, I was trying to think of like, so my family, again, we talk about, I've talked about my family being from Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville is famous for Churchill Downs. A game that I love is Ready, Set, Bet. So why wouldn't you do mint juleps and deviled eggs?
Okay. I think that's actually a phenomenal pairing. I think that's wonderful.
I don't eat deviled eggs, but I would provide them. I can cook, so I would make them and then have my wife taste them and make sure they were edible. But yeah, that would be like, you're not just doing like a pairing, but you're kind of almost having like a party centered around the game, and just something to try, something to do, have a fun little theme.
The guests would have to wear their biggest hats. I'm assuming that's part of the deal too.
Yeah, I think so. I think, maybe just to put a spin on it, the guys have to wear really nice, colorful dresses and big hats, and then the ladies dress up in suits. No, but yeah, it would be, if you can get people to come in attire, right, garbed for the occasion as well, that would be pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, horse racing is huge in my second hometown, and yeah, so anytime like a board game, kind of like, that's a board game I could take, and when I go down to visit my relatives down in Louisville, and they would all be excited to play, right? Because it's real time. The rules overhead is like very low, right? It's just like, hey, throw your betting chips down, let's go, and then you theme the party. My uncles would probably forego the mint juleps for just some bourbon.
Sure.
But you can't go wrong though, right? You get a good Kentucky bourbon and you, or a mint julep and snack away. So that would be my pairing, my my legitimate, like, people won't go, oh, this man's an idiot.
No, I like the pairing. I would happen to go with 1792 if it was me on that one. But yes, I actually think it's very good. One of the staples of pairing is location, right? So
Oh, sure.
if you have something that comes from a place or is a place, then what they drink there is a great way to pair. Whether it be, Castles of Burgundy, pick a Burgundy wine. Like that's a
Sure.
really easy way to go about pairing things. So I'm not going to put on my list any of these city-based games because those are kind of automatic. But I think you did a great start. Do you want to answer Andrew's there about viticulture and the low-hanging fruit? Because I feel like that game, there's a saying in winemaking. This is something most people don't know actually. It takes a lot of beer to make good wine. And the reason that is because winemakers are so busy tasting their fruit all the time and checking it and all these things like that. The last thing we do at the end of the day is to open a bottle. So what they'll do is crack a beer instead. And so it takes a lot of beer to make good wine. So I think you got to go with the beer pairing. And I'm pretty sure you can drink whatever beer you want to. And I think that would work just fine with viticulture.
Nice.
That's really interesting. I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. You never can. It's one of those things that it's like, now that you say it, it sounds so obvious. And then what? A cheese? Or you still do a cheese if you're going to do a food?
Drop a little fromage on there. Yeah, I mean, I'm partial to manchego with beer. I think that's a nice, firm, slightly pungent cheese that isn't like stinky or anything like that. Just got a little funk to it. But yeah, I figure you're going to want to go with some cheddar or flat out American slices chopped up.
Just that
with a PBR. I think it's probably the way you were going to go with that.
That Velveeta block that jiggles.
Yeah,
if
there you
drop
go.
it too hard. Yeah, no, a good sharp cheddar. I'd be fine with that. Be fine with that.
All right. So Tim, I also put Ready Set Bet on my pairing list because it's one of my favorite games.
That's why I needed to go first so I could have that first.
Your legitimate one would be stolen. But no, I had a totally different pairing though. I went with a Kentucky Mule, which is a Moscow Mule with bourbon. So take your pick. Tons of wonderful Kentucky bourbon that you can pour into that drink. I'd go with just regular old Buffalo Trace for that.
Okay, sure. I happen to think that Bullet is a better pairing with the ginger beer, but that's my personal preference. There is absolutely nothing wrong with Buffalo Trace, except it's more expensive. That's it.
Yeah. It's in some places too expensive for what it is, but it's still a very fine whiskey.
So next time we hang out, let's play Ready Set Bet because that is actually on my list of games to try that I have actually never gotten a chance.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's the kind of game you can only play at a convention or with a group of people. You cannot play that 2 or 3 player. It needs to be a bunch of people. So I want to play that with you guys next time we hang out.
Absolutely. It's a deal. It's happening.
Now, also, since Tim mentioned mint julep, I had that as one of my pairings, but I paired it with Long Shot, the dice game.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
so
okay,
for obvious reasons. So there you go.
So Diana wanted to know if I matched anything with pie because I don't eat pie. So I do eat Irish meat pies. We used to have a place in South Bend that had amazing Irish meat pies. So I would drink what they called their 4 Horsemen brew. It was basically a Killian's, like a nicer Killian's red.
Sure.
But a little better because it was actually just made right there, in the building that you're drinking it in.
Right.
Sadly, that place is gone now, so I don't have any good place to get an Irish meat pie. In Ireland, I would drink a Guinness with a shepherd's pie when I was there. So
classic pairing.
Worked out.
That's fair.
Worked out well. Again, obvious choices. And I know that's not what she was asking. She was trolling me, but I'm going to give an honest answer for that. So.
I like the honest answer, but I have to follow it up with, well, which board game do you put with that shepherd's pie?
How about Clans of Caledonia?
Well done, sir.
All right.
Well done. I like that.
I'm quick on my feet. I may have a garbage palate, but I'm quick on my feet. All right, Andrew, I believe it is your turn, sir. Right?
Well, I figure what's the best played game across all genres for most people that I know, and that's Wingspan. Now, Wingspan is one of those things where, like, if you do food pairings, it's real easy. that you could just replace the food ingredients with different things. So you could do like gummy worms, you could do like jelly bean eggs, you could do like, whatever as far as all that kind of stuff. Wheat thins, if you want to do instead of wheat, whatever. But I wanted to pick a wine that would pair with it because that's what I do. And there's a wonderful winery called Duckhorn Winery in Anderson Valley. They really do Pinot Noirs really well, and I'm a connoisseur of Pinot Noir. I love Pinot Noir. It is the most fickle grape, the most delicate grape. It is very hard to grow, but when it does, it really shines. And Paradox is the one I would pair with that one.
Paradox.
Thank you for the graphic. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Love it.
It's a great label because it's got ducks on it on top of that, but also it's a blend. So you get a little taste of everything. You get a little bit of Cab, you get a little bit of Pinot, you get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And kind of like this game, you get a little bit of all the different things in there. You get big birds, you get small birds, you get, fun ones from the Far East and the near North and all the different kind like that. And of course, when I play Wingspan, I play with all the expansions, all of them, every single one. I play the big game when we play.
Now, I have a question again. Pardon my ignorance here with wine. I prefer every beverage, no matter what I am drinking, ice cold.
Sure.
And I know that there are a lot of wine. Some wines are meant to be chilled, and some wines are meant to be consumed or enjoyed at room temperature. Which one is Paradox?
Paradox, like most wines, by the way, the optimal temperature is the temperature of your basement.
Okay.
So you could drink it right now and it would be room temperature for you and be right. So you want it just slightly colder than what normal temperature would be. And there's a range there, but it's a bell curve, so if you have it way too cold, it's not going to open up. You're not going to get the different flavors. And if you get way too hot, then you're baking the wine and you're losing a lot of flavors that way. So it's not like there's a perfect temperature to hit it at. You just want it to be slightly chilled.
Slightly chilled.
Keep it at that level, then you'll be pretty much golden no matter what you're drinking.
That keeps it in my warehouse.
with whites slightly more than reds. But one of the things about wine that's really cool is as it warms up, it showcases different things. So you want it to be slightly colder when you open it than it should be, so that it's slightly warmer than it should be when you finish. And that way each sip gets a little bit different as the temperature changes and shifts.
Interesting. That's very cool. I'm taking notes because I want to know about some of these so I can refine myself. Maybe I can impress my wife.
Sure.
Maybe. It's worth a shot.
I feel like she knows you and who you are at this point. I'm not sure you're surprising her a whole lot, but yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Well, every once in a while, I got to come up with a curveball, to throw at her. So
at the bottom on my list, I did a Wingspan pairing, and I made it based on the last time I played Wingspan.
Okay.
It's been almost 2 years, unfortunately, but when I played it at Thanksgiving, so I would pair it with turkey.
Oh, okay.
And also because there are wild turkeys in that game. So there you go.
And they're worth big points. So yeah, absolutely. I think
yes,
that's a great
they
pick.
are. They're like
a big old turkey leg, like you're at a jousting tournament, and you get a little wild turkey in your glass. That sounds pretty good.
They've got the regular wild turkey, and they've also got the prairie chicken in there as well.
Right?
Who I know a friend of our show is a big fan of. So there you go. That was my sort of goofy one.
Nice.
Now, if they had a free range chicken, I'd be very excited, or a caged one. Either one would be fine.
There were a couple mentioned in the comments that I actually did pair, so I want to come back to those real fast. Okay. Somebody mentioned, multiple people have already mentioned Clans of Caledonia, which, by the way, is getting reprinted this year. For those of you who haven't checked it out yet, highly recommend looking into that reprint campaign. Nice. I love that game. That is, of course, a Scottish theme. I would pair that with a Scottish ale. Right here in Elkhart, Indiana, we've got a brewery called Yakada. I can say it. Don't ask me to spell it.
Yakada is really good. I've been there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's spelled like I-E, something.
IECHYD space DA. It's anyway, has a really cool dragon for their logo. I have a growler and it's great to look at. But they have an excellent Scottish strong ale called Stiff Wind. I was going through,
yeah.
I actually not only log my plays of board games, I log the beers I drink, and then I rate
Nice.
those too. I use Untapped is the app
Yep,
for that.
that's the one.
My highest rated beer from Yakada is the Stiff Wind Scottish Strong Ale. So that's what I would pair with Clans of Caledonia.
That's a
And
great pick. Real quickly, I
that,
want to pop in and answer Bob's question. Yes, I have been a sommelier. I am no longer practicing, so I don't call myself a sommelier anymore because sommeliers taste some 1,000 bottles a year of different wines.
Wow.
It's the only way you can keep completely up to date with how things are going. I consider a sommelier to be a little bit like a book reviewer, right? Like, so if you stop reading all the books, you still know who the good authors are, but you don't know what the current releases taste like. You don't know what their best now book is. So it's been almost 10 years or 12 years since I was last practicing. So I still know the good wineries, but every time I open a bottle, it's a guess whether this is a good year or a bad year, and I don't have any way of tracking that anymore. So I don't consider myself a current sommelier, but I was at one point.
awesome. Yeah, you're multitudes of levels ahead of where I'm at. I've just done lots of tastings, lots of flights,
Good.
and so just experienced a lot of different flavors. No
That's all you really
expertise
have
at
to
all.
do because that tells you what you like and what you don't like, and that's all
Yeah,
that matters to you.
that is exactly what I was just going to say. That's exactly what I tell anybody that doesn't like wine. It's because you haven't tried enough of them. You will find one you'll like. You just need to try a bunch of them.
Also, I will have one little sommelier tip for those who are out there. There's a crap ton of terrible wine out there, and all of it costs less than the good stuff, right? So I'm not saying you have to drop $100 on a bottle, but if you can go above the $20 price point, and considering that each bottle holds between 4 and 5 glasses in it, think of it like $5 a glass versus think of it $20 bottle, right? Um, Invest in that, and 80% of those bottles are quality enough that you will either be impressed or you will at least be able to taste the quality. If you want to go higher than that, go right ahead. I think there's a cap at about 60, where I feel like unless you're a connoisseur, you're not going to be able to taste the difference between a 60 and a $120 bottle. But I think the sweet spot is around 20 to 25, up to about 60. Try things out. If you go to tastings, great, but I would hesitate to pick up a bottle for less than 25 if I didn't know the bottle already. As a person who doesn't know wine, that would be my recommendation. And whenever I go to somebody's house, I will always bring a $25 bottle with me, even if they don't like wine, because eventually they'll open it. And when they open it, I want them to go, oh man, I should open this at the party.
Now,
Nice.
So you're saying that my mini fridge filled with $5 bottles of Night Train is no good? Because that's
no, for you, it's what you enjoy, and you go right ahead.
Yeah.
But I'm not drinking from your punch bowl. Thanks anyway. No, that's not how it's gonna work.
So funny though, when I was young, had hair, and was even dumber than I am now.
Wow.
We would. I'm a Guns N' Roses fan. They had a song called Night Train about the wine because they drank it to keep warm while they were homeless. And so we went out and scoured the liquor stores, the bad ones of South Bend, Indiana, looking for Night Train, and found it. And guess what? It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's worse than the Mad Dog 2020. It's worse than but we drank it and sang like hobos. It was pretty fun.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a fun tip about just kind of just go over that normal threshold, right? Because I think a lot of people I've been there where it's like, oh, $15 for a bottle. Like, okay, that might be all right, and hesitant to spend a little bit more. Now, how about this? How do you tell what kind of wines you like? Like, can you kind of figure out like, oh, I like a white or a red or a blush, trying out the cheaper ones before you dig in, or do you just jump into the deep end and grab something that appeals to you? Maybe
I would say if you can do it, go to a local winery, like because local wineries will let you taste their entire line for like $5. Right?
Oh, sure,
so
sure.
If you can travel anywhere in the country that has wineries and go to a winery and just see how many different things you can taste, not only you're tasting the local cuisine, basically, you're tasting a quality that is at least to a certain point. And I'm not saying it's going to be great, but you're going to be able to pick out certain things in okay, I'm trending toward this, or I'm
I
trending
see.
away
Yeah.
from that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then use that knowledge to then bump up the price point, get a little nicer bottle,
There we
and
go.
confirm whether you like things or not.
There we go. All right. That's a good tip. Pro tip, man. That's why. And yeah, as we talked about, I mean, I live in an area where I can drive a half an hour and there's 10 different wineries to choose from. So yeah,
And
excellent.
not all wines are for all people either, by the way. There's a spectrum there that is evolved, and it's one of the things to think about too is sweetness in wine, right? Like, it's considered a bad thing, but there are plenty of wines out there that are sweet. So if you have a sweet tooth, if you like sodas, if you like, those kind of things, if you like wine coolers, like say you want to go that way, there are plenty of wines out there that are to your taste. You just got to go looking for those as well. Let me just plug my game a little bit here, but if you could pull up, Mike, the pictures of the different bottles, right? So in Wine Cellar, it's a card game where every card is a bottle of wine. And one of the things I made sure we put on these are the little tasting notes on the side. So you can see in bottle 1, it says Cava, and there are tasting notes there. And so it's not saying that every Cava is going to taste this way, but it gives you an idea of the kind of flavor profiles you might find in a bottle of Cava. So you might taste a little yellow apple, you might taste a little lime, you might taste a little quince, and you might taste a little chamomile. Now, those are notes that can be found in all different kinds of bottles. It's not I didn't pick a specific bottle and said, here are the taste notes from that bottle, because that would be too pinpointing something. This is a general tasting note. But if you go looking through the cards in my game, you can find the flavor profile that sounds good for you and try a bottle of that. And one of the things I did with this game is to not just do the most common wines out there. Yes, the common wines are we find in the lowest cards because that's the player count you're going to play with most often. But I went and found some of the more obscure ones, more of the wilder ones, more of the stuff that most people haven't even heard about. So the higher you get up in the card count, the more weird and wild the wines are going to get, and some cool, funky things that you might not even heard of. So one of the things I wanted to do with this game was to showcase the world of wine and all the different kind of funky things you can then explore, and hopefully you get intrigued by while you're playing the game.
Now, do you have a wine that has a one of the cards on it has like a UPC that I can scan, and then Snoop Dogg talks to me and tells me why I should buy that wine?
Not yet, but I expect that on the reprint, because I'm sure we're going to get some sponsorships. People will be like, well, I want my card to be the Cava. So, all right.
Right.
We'll make that happen, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was like the dumbest thing to get people to buy what is maybe a bad wine, but I don't know. I haven't drank it.
Well, here's the thing about wine too, is the more you can produce, the more you can make money. So the people who have the advertising budgets in general are the ones who are producing, 750,000 cases a year of the low end stuff. And then they're doing that times 15 different bottles, right? So they're producing a ridiculous amount of wine, and they're making less off each bottle, but the sheer amount of it means that they're bringing in the money, and then they use the marketing to turn around and sell more of it. So I actually recommend, if you can, go for the lower batches where the guys, instead of putting the bad grapes in a bottle, throw those grapes back in the field to fertilize next year's crop.
Oh, interesting. Nice.
So I tend to be one of those sweet wine drinkers. So that fruit wine you speak of tends to be my flavor. Bob mentioned it. Blackberry wines I tend to gravitate to. I've had several of those that I really like. Of the dries, my favorite is Merlot, and I did not know Merlot Rosé was a thing.
Yeah, so here's the thing that most people don't know about rosé too, by the way. Rosé just means that they squished the grapes and then it didn't sit in the crush. So the more skin contact that the wine sits in after it's crushed, the darker the wine gets. So in this case, what they do is they crush these red grapes and then basically drain it right away instead of letting it sit and marinate in it. And then it becomes that lighter blush color. And the winemaker can literally dictate how dark that pink is by how long it sits in the grapes.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's awesome. I love the education that I'm getting.
No, he's not going to use it, but he loves it.
Listen, I'm going to sound very smart at my next social gathering where anybody's having wine. I'm going to regurgitate all of these things as if I knew them all along. No, I'm
Sure.
just kidding. I will be like, hey, I
Isn't
know a
that
cool
what we
dude.
all do on a daily basis, though? We take other people's smartness and we regurgitate it as it's our own. I think that's just being human. I don't
That's
think
it.
that's anything different.
All right, let's. You want to do another pairing?
Sure, Tim, go ahead. Throw out the next one. What do you got? What
Okay,
are we pairing?
let's get weird.
Okay.
Let's get weird. Okay, going back to my childhood.
Okay.
So, not a great game, but if you're gonna play this game, it's a very popular IP. But I'm pretty sure somebody had a design sitting on a shelf and they pitched it, and the company said, "Yeah, we're gonna do that, but we're gonna make it a Ghostbusters game." And I'm like, okay. So, Ghostbusters, the board game.
Okay.
It's fine. It's a nostalgia trip. Not
Sure.
anything great. I got it off a bargain thing. So I'm not saying, hey, everybody go out and buy this game. But if you like it, awesome. Glad you love it. But so we're gonna go real low. We're gonna go real low with this. We're just like Ghostbusters is a movie that I love, So you have that with some popcorn. That's a great snack while you're playing board games. You can have the healthy stuff, or you can movie butter it up. And then some high C ecto cooler.
I actually just pulled it up on Google. So I was going to I was going to send it to you immediately. I'm like, that's what you're pairing with it. I knew it. Ecto Cooler, High C. Absolutely. That's the way to go with that.
I don't know that they make that anymore, but if you can find it, it is a vintage beverage. There you go. And I'm sure it's aged almost as well as some of those grapes that Andrew likes to talk about. And it might actually be alcoholic at this point. But yeah, I told you my list was going to be barbaric compared to yours. But yeah, so I went with popcorn and ecto cooler for Ghostbusters. You could do the Ghostbusters Men in Black game. That is actually better than the regular Ghostbusters game. But still, I would keep the food the same, a light snack, very sugary, neon green beverage, and rock and roll. So there you go. Ghostbusters with ecto cooler. Wow. Oh, David, you're right. Listen, this was a short sight. I was short-sighted here. But here's the problem with the marshmallows. Okay, that's the only problem with having marshmallows.
They got to be toasted.
With the ecto cooler is you might have too much sweetness, right? Your brain might just shut off from like I can't have sweet followed with sweet. I got to have some salty to go with my sweet. I know I'm not as cultured, but I at least know that much that my body instinctively at least craves those pairings. So yeah. So popcorn, ecto cooler. You could sub out marshmallows, but you got to toast them if you're going to do it, because nobody steps on a church in my town. So let's go. That's top that, guys.
All right, Mike. I just sent you a picture. This is what I'm going to pair with it.
Nice. He's bringing the heat here. Look at this.
So this is Frozen Ghost vodka, all right? And I think you can pair this with a little bit of that Midori. You get that little green in there. You drop that in there.
Oh, look at
and
this.
And if you chilled this properly, it might even swirl a bit. That's what I'm drinking.
Oh my God. Look at this. Yes, I love this. And a little Midori.
That bottle looks awesome.
And I bet you that tastes good too. I bet you. I used to be a bartender. I'm just too lazy to make the real fancy stuff for myself, which is why I just drink whatever straight, usually on the rocks or, with like one thing mixed in. But man, that sounds really good.
I'm a big believer in the two combo or the 2 ingredient drink, right? Like I'm a huge fan of like, say, mezcal and a little mango juice, something like that, like something real simple, get a little smokiness in there, whatever. But I don't think you need to have 15 ingredients. Although if I'm going to do that, I go to a bartender that's professional and I let him mix the right amounts. But I think you can do some pretty amazing things with just 2 ingredients.
I agree. And the bar that I worked at, where I made the most drinks was what we locally would call a Domer bar. It was a bar for Notre Dame students.
Sure.
And it was really just pour as fast as you can, because there's 150 kids in there, all over 21, I'm sure. and
Right.
you just got to get them their drinks. They're just Red Bull vodka, blah blah blah. And they're slamming them down. They're not tasting anything.
Right.
Every once in a while, you'd get a girl that would walk in and be like, "Can you make me a mimosa?" And I'm like, "I think you're in the wrong bar." But
Right.
yes, I can. But anyways, I digress. But I did just think of another awesome pairing, which
Okay.
I will do next. So I'll let you guys have a turn.
All right, Mike, go ahead and give what's your next thing you want to pair with?
Okay. I was also thinking I'll go to my green drink since Tim mentioned the Ecto Cooler. Now, I haven't had this since college, but there's a drink called Incredible Hulk where you mix Hypnotic with Hennessy.
I
And
remember this drink.
yeah, I had my share of those down at Purdue.
It made
I
me
would
make a
mix,
face like I was transforming into the Incredible Hulk when I would drink it. I was like,
yeah,
"Ugh," as you.
it's an
I actually think
interesting one.
that's on the tagline from Malort. So yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, my lord.
Pick your Marvel game. Your Marvel game. I'll take Legendary Marvel to pair with the Incredible Hulk
The
mixture
Incredible
there.
Hulk.
Uh-huh.
Oh, a mezcal and pineapple. Yeah.
Yeah, Diana's got good taste.
Yeah. I
I
do
also
like
I like the Santorini and Ouzo pick.
the
That's
Ouzo.
a nice pairing too. Like I said, you take a location and you take a local drink there. That's an automatic mix.
I
I
have a
dated
lot of those, so I've cheated.
I dated a girl with a Greek family, and I could not do Ouzo. Man, they loved Ouzo. I could not. Maybe I was drinking it wrong, but it was. Ooh, couldn't do it. Couldn't handle it. But I do love a good mezcal or a really good tequila. Man, I can do tequila shots. You get a good high.
Mhm.
All right. So since you don't like to drink Metaxa, so I have a family. My wife's family's from Cyprus,
Okay.
and it's kind of not Greek, but kind of Greek. It's a weird thing. But what they drink a lot of is Metaxa, which is a brandy that's made out there. It tastes a little bit like maple syrup, but not sweet, sweet. Like a slightly sweet, more natural from the tree maple syrup, and it's quite lovely. So I would highly recommend giving that a try. And it's not too expensive. You can find it at I can find it at Binny's. I'm assuming you can find it at ABC
Oh,
or Total Wines or whatever. I would recommend checking that out then if you're looking for something that's Greek oriented that isn't as harsh as say Nuzo is.
how do you spell metaxa?
Metaxa. Here, you know what?
AXA.
I
Beauty.
will send a picture to Mike and he can post it up there.
Oh yeah, I was gonna just Google one, but if you got one prepped, I'll take it.
I don't. I'm Googling it.
The problem now is after doing this show, instead of just having like whiskeys over here, I'm going to be making myself all kinds of drinks because a lot of these sound really good. Like I really want that Ghost Vodka and Midori. Like this, would love to try this Metaxa. I think that sounds awesome. I got talking about tequila. Now the problem is I don't sip tequila. I just shoot tequila. And I really don't like tequila mixed in anything either. I just want to, I don't do the Bloody Marias. Anyways, Mystery at the Abbey with Benedictine and brandy.
There you go.
Look at that.
I like it.
Okay.
You could play Spectre and just make your favorite kind of martini.
That's true.
I would like a very dry one with no olives. That would be a gin martini. But and then John, blasphemy. Which one? Was it my? It was probably my martini. I don't like olives. Chilled sake with lemon for Jiraku. I've got to drink sake cold. I can't drink hot sake. I can't do it.
Yeah, there's a few different types of Metaxa, isn't there? So there's just a bunch of different companies that make that.
Yeah,
style.
I mean, there's different levels of stars. I'm a big believer in the 7-star. I think that's probably the best one, but you can find your taste as far as whatever you prefer. There you go. I
really
sent a picture, Mike. There you go.
Nice. There we go. That was one of the ones that popped up
Oh
for me.
yeah, I see that
I
7-star. Yeah, all right.
I found one that has a really cool looking bottle.
And now they it looks like they like, is that Ouzo style bottle, that like long, skinny?
Yeah.
Is that a Greek thing? Is that a?
I'm not sure that is. I think it's just a matter of it. It's one of the shapes that packages easily into, old wine boxes, basically.
Gotcha.
So, when you do a shorter squatter one, you have to do a shorter box at that point.
Okay.
And so it makes it like a wider pallet build than that way. So I think it's more a matter of just convenience to make
Logistics.
it that same shape, and size.
Interesting. Right on. Man. You said that you like the 7-star Metaxa.
I am a big fan of 7-star. 5-star is almost as good. I wouldn't go below the 5, and you don't need to go above the 7. Like there's like a 10 that's unnecessary and doesn't taste better. So that's the way I'd go with that.
All right, I'm trying it.
Okay, I didn't see what star this was, but I just thought the bottle was cool. So
yours is oh wait, that one is I don't know. It just says Grande.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a higher end. It doesn't taste higher end as far as I'm concerned, but that's you're paying for the bottle at that point. That's totally fine.
That's a general rule. Anytime there's a cool bourbon bottle, it's making up for lack of taste.
Yeah,
it's called marketing.
Yeah, it is.
That doesn't stop me from buying it, but it does. It's marketing.
Yeah.
What's Mike? What's your game, and what are you pairing it with?
Oh, where do I want to go next? Well, let's get one of those locations out of the way. Since Andrew said it was too easy, I've got a few of those. I'll just get those out of the way.
That's fine. I didn't mean to sabotage you here, Mike. That's fine.
No, you're right. It's very easy to just look at a location and say, all right, this is the food and drink of that place, so let's pair it with that. So a couple of those real fast would be Brass Birmingham with Newcastle Brown Ale.
Sure.
I mean,
I feel like that's what they're drinking in the game, probably, so that makes sense.
Correct. Yes. So again, a very, very easy pairing to make there. Let's stay in the UK, and let's go with Sheriff of Nottingham.
Oh, okay. Now you get interesting because now we're talking about a place, but we're talking about a place and time that didn't really have a signature drink. So that's interesting.
Well, I learned that there is a thing called Nottinghamshire pie, and it's essentially their version of a shepherd's pie.
Okay, so what is the type of beef in it? Because I mean, it's either beef, it's either pork, or it's lamb, essentially. And what makes it a shepherd's pie is lamb. If it's beef, it's actually not shepherd's pie at that point. It's cottage pie. So I'm curious to see what kind of beef they put in that.
It looks like mostly steak.
Okay.
So it is a cottage pie. Now, what beverage are you pairing with that? What timeless drink?
Well, I already threw my Newcastle Brown Ale out there.
Okay.
So I would have to then pivot to I'm running out of British ales. The Newcastle was the easy one. Sorry. Yeah.
That's all right.
You could do a mead with it, right? I mean, that might have been a beverage of that time.
Yeah, as far as the time. No, Bass has been around for a long time. I don't know if it goes that far back. But
little tidbit, by the way, Bass Beer was the very first to have a logo in its advertising. That red triangle is actually the first used icon as an advertising logo in history in advertising.
Nice.
I'm glad we were able to tie this back to iconography.
And a game that I love. And a food that I would eat.
Yeah.
Even better. All right, Andrew. Show us both up, and what amazing pairing do you have, and what other beverage am I going to have to write down that I'm going to need to try soon?
All right, so I feel like the food is already presented in this game. It's Feast for Odin, right? Like you've already got the feast.
Oh, nice.
The whole game is about what foods you put on the table and stuff like that. And I thought, what wine would you pair with this? Now, The easy way to go with this is it's Vikings. So you could absolutely go mead, right? Which is the historical aspect of that. So that's basically just a honey version of wine. Instead of grapes, they use honey. They ferment it the same way. It takes over time. And there are some really great meaderies out there, by the way. So go explore them if that interests you at all. But the one that I picked, if you want to go ahead and put the graphic up for me, Mike, because I want to say it right, is Odin's Honor. It's a reserve Shiraz from Australia. So Shiraz is a dark, lush grape that takes on some of that Merlot, Mike, that you would like, but then adds just a little bit of complexity on the back end. So it takes that fruit forwardness, but adds just like a little bit of not necessarily a smoke, but a little more of the tannin in there. And I feel like this is a great looking bottle too. So I feel like you pull this out, you'd be like, oh man, that's going to look good on the table. You're going to be able to do some Instagramming pictures with this. That's my pairing, I think.
Look at that.
Oh, Wayne, that was an awesome pick, and I do agree with you that I love this bottle. But Wayne just blew me away with this because I love the game of Container. Again, it's an auction game.
Okay.
And I have not tried Jefferson's Ocean yet, and I've heard great things about it. So that's a good one.
Yeah, I actually almost put that one up. I was actually going to go with Viking Blood Mead, and then I was like, let me go a little deeper into the pocket versus pull that one that's an automatic. But that's a great pick.
And Jim Cole is a bit of a mixologist himself. That dude, we had him on, and man, he was coming up with some awesome stuff. But again, stuff that I am way too lazy to create. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna just bring it all down really quickly. You thought Ecto Cooler was bad, okay? So we're gonna talk about a region, a game in a region. Okay, so we're going south and we're going west. We're gonna go to Texas, and this game I would pair with chili and a Shinerbach, and that is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, they are winning chili contests, but they're not telling you what the secret ingredient is.
That's what I'm afraid is in the chili. That's what I was going to say.
Right. Yeah. So, all the jokes about cannibalism and everything. I had to have one. But I couldn't pick like low-hanging fruit and just go like zombicide and like finger sandwiches, right? That's too easy. That's boring. No. I love a good chili. And the great thing about chili is you can put any kind of meat in there. You can put multiple types of meat in there and have some really good. I like chili that has, like chorizo and then still has like big old chunks of beef in it and lamb. You're like, just throw like a bunch of stuff in there and let it cook, then refrigerate it for a day and then cook it again. Oh my God. It tastes so good.
The flavors meld and really turns into stuff. And I feel like if you're not using two meats, you're kind of doing it wrong anyway. So yeah, 100%. I don't care if you're using chicken and pork or whatever. My wife does things where she will put in bits of leftover gyro. And that adds a cool smoky flavor to it, which is kind of fun, or any other kind of like shaved meats or like that. So definitely recommend. Make your chili when you do it. Multiple meats is the way to go.
There we go.
I'm a multiple meat chili guy myself. I typically use entry sausage, the breakfast sausage, because it has a little bit more of a kick to it than regular sausage. But wow, gyro meat and chili, you just blew my mind.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I thought chorizo was like my go-to. Like throw some chorizo in there with some other stuff. But yeah, that gyro meat sounds really good in there. Oh man. But yeah, so you got some chili, you get a good Texas beer, you get a Shinerbach. You could pick any other Texas beer you want. Well, you don't like Shinerbach, Mike? You're making a noise.
Oh no, I was just amazed that you came up with a decent pairing here.
All right, so Mike, I sent you a picture. And if you guys didn't know this, every single state in the union makes wine. Every single one of them. There's not a place that doesn't. So I went ahead and found a Texas wine. Throw this up for me.
Tell me it's a fighting wine.
So this is the Wedding Oak Winery Tex Italia, the Texas High Plains red wine. And I just love that they took the boot and put a spur on it. I'm not attesting to the quality of this wine. I just went and found a Texas wine that I think embodies the spirit of what that movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, without putting a chainsaw on the front of it. This is pretty much where I think of this one go.
That's damn good. I love it. I love it.
All right.
That's really good. Dave's got a good pairing. How about Quacks of Quedlinburg with pumpkin and mushroom stew, and then maybe throw some moths and spiders in there for flavor.
Pumpkin soup is amazing, by the way.
I mean, I guess protein is protein, right? And once it gets in the soup deep enough, you can't really tell. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely on point.
No, that's what I was going to do, Barry. I was going to pair Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a Bloody Mary.
Oh, that's a good pick, actually. I like that. Yeah.
I'm not a Bloody Mary fan at all. I can't do tomato juice. It's no.
Well, yeah, but you do it with Texas and you put so much spice in there that I'm not sure you can taste the tomato anymore.
There you go.
I think for me, it would be the texture. I don't want to have to chew my beverage, like it gets a little thick.
Yeah.
But I'm not a dark beer guy, right? Mike likes to chew his beers as they go down. So
indeed.
I shouldn't say I'm not a dark beer guy. I'm not a stout, guy. Again, though, Guinness in Ireland was different.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was so smooth and it was light. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like it was really bizarre because
it got world famous from there, and that's why. Like it's different places, and it can't have the same ingredients because the water is different and because the minerals are different and all those things. So it's going to taste different places.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, in Dublin, it's amazing. It was amazing. All the while, all the locals are drinking like Budweiser and Bud Light. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? As I'm ordering up all the weird beers that I've never seen in the United States, right?
As well, you should, right? Yeah, but for them, that's the weird beer. That's the thing they don't have access to. It's so funny.
Yeah. So there's my Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Shinerbach, and chili. You must have at least 2 meats in that chili. Stay away from the long pork. But
put a little andouille sausage, turn into a gumbo. That's how you do that.
There we go. All right, Mike, you got a game and a pairing?
Yeah. Let's get away from locations. All right. So this was my joke pick that I already spoiled to Tim. So let's just make sure I get it out there. My favorite game that came out last year was Sky Team. I love this game. I've played it more than anything since Gen Con, which is where I picked it up, and I just can't get enough of it. So what I would pair with Sky Team, which is a game about a pilot and co-pilot landing a plane, I would pair it with a small bag of peanuts.
and some Sky vodka,
2 bottles of bourbon in the little airplane bottles, right?
Yeah,
that's
gotta be it.
Or a 12-ounce can of Sprite. So
sure,
you could get
the
little bottles of Sky vodka to go with your honey roasted peanuts in a foil bag, and there you go. And then you could charge yourself $25 for it as well.
That's the real secret, right? You gotta make yourself hurt in the bank account from it.
Yeah,
that's true.
All right, so Mike, there's a classic cocktail called the Aviation Cocktail. I just sent it to you. Oh, yeah. It is a purple beverage of kind of fun. Ooh. It is gin, maraschino liqueur, creme de violette, and lemon juice. And it's quite refreshing.
That sounds good. I would drink that.
So that's how I would go with Sky Team.
I feel like I've maybe had one of those. That sounds familiar. Like one of those things where an ex-girlfriend orders it and it's like, here, try this. Like, ooh, that was good.
I'm a big fan of umbrella drinks. I have no shame. Like I will drink anything and everything. And by the way, let me just say this, by the way, I am not a big consumer. I am a light consumer on a frequent basis, right? Like, so I am a 2-drink maximum kind of guy. I don't get hammered. But I love the flavors. I love all the different combos, and I love how it changes the way the food I eat does. Like, actually, if you've never paired wine with a steak, which I'm not saying, everybody has to do that, but I would highly recommend, if you're ever going to do that, one of the little inside scoops on that, the reason you pair Cabernet with steak is because Cabernet has the highest tannic content. And what tannin does is it attaches it to the fat of the beef. So the tannin goes away, the sharpness goes away, and all you get is left over is that smooth, silky wine that you would only find if you'd aged it 20 more years. So it's like almost an advanced aging process to get better version of the wine when you pair it with the steak. So that's the kind of thing that I try to do whenever I pair my food and my wine, is to accentuate or improve the wine or bring different things out of it. So if I have one bite and it tastes like this, and then I have another bite and it tastes like that, that's infinitely interesting.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to try that. I've never tried that. Never tried that. So a steak and a Cabernet.
Yeah, you know what? Here's a good bottle. A bottle of Justin is like $22, $23, whatever not. Mm-hmm. That is a perfect steak pairing wine. It's not expensive. It's easy to get almost anywhere, and it really will dramatically change the taste of your steak. Now, also, it depends on the quality of your steak. So I recommend going ribeye. If you have to go to
my favorite.
That's fine.
That's my favorite.
Don't cheap out on a cheap pair of steak and do skirt steak and expect it to make a difference.
Yeah,
you want to have a nice steak, which you can get at a local butcher at a reasonable price, and you get a nice bottle of wine, and you can have a gourmet meal.
You can put all the ketchup you want on a skirt steak. It's still a skirt steak. I'm just kidding. I don't put ketchup on steak.
Chimichurri is how you do the skirt steak, man. You got to do the chimichurri on there.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of my philosophy as well. Overindulging is pretty rare for me. It's usually if I'm going out to eat, I'm going to have a couple drinks with it. And again, no shame. Umbrellas, fruit, don't care. If it tastes good, in here you go.
There you go.
Who cares?
Don't care.
Who cares?
White Claw, umbrella drinks, fruit drinks. If it's good flavor, let's give it a shot.
All right, I do draw the line at Bud Light because I might as well just drink water at that point.
I hate Bud Light. But I do like Miller Lite, and I know that's the equivalent of. But
I actually think Miller Lite has flavor, so I disagree with that. That's as low as I go.
Okay, thank you. All right,
yeah,
I feel good.
They're kind of like the last resort anymore.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Oh, that's all you got? Okay, or like if you happen to walk into a Texas Roadhouse and the best thing they have is Blue Moon. All right, sure.
Yeah. No, I go in, if I go with Mike and we go to like a fancy beer place, which has happened, and I'm like, what's your Pilsner? Just give me a Pilsner. And I can't go wrong. It usually tastes better than what I normally buy for myself. And I still get that flavor profile that I like.
Yeah. And by the way, don't let anybody else talk you out of what you like. There's no reason to not drink the things that you like.
Oh, sure.
Just drink the better version of what you like.
Right. That makes total sense.
I can't remember what that place was called, but there was that brewery that downtown Indy by the convention center that we went to. I can't remember.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
They had some
talking about Sun King, or are you talking about a different one?
No, it wasn't Sun King. I would have remembered Sun King. That's an easy one.
Maybe I'll try to look it up. Speaking of, perfect segue. I paired our show with a shirt.
Oh, look at that.
So they actually opened a Sun King in Mishawaka. So you can see the Sun King logo.
Nice.
And so Indiana Drinking Team, I picked this shirt up here at the new one in Mishawaka when they first opened it a couple years ago.
Nice. Yeah, I make sure every time I go to Gen Con, I make sure I get at least one Sun King, and I get whatever their special is that year. And usually it's pretty good.
Yeah, Sun King is pretty good. I gotta look that up. Indianapolis.
All right, since we're pairing beers, will you pull up Root for me, please?
Yes, sir.
So I paired with Root, and I feel like this is a difficult pairing. So this was me finding some fun here. There's a brewery in Chicago called Forbidden Root, so that's the easy one. But which of them? I picked the Shifty Fellow because I feel like when you're playing Root, you gotta be shifty. You gotta not be awkward. You can't be obvious what you're doing. You gotta hide your intentions. This one's a really nice saison ale with toasted buckwheat, cucumber, and shiso.
Ooh, that sounds great.
It's refreshing with a deep flavor profile, so really good.
I did not think I would like cucumber in drinks, but it is fantastic. It's really kind of
I hate cucumber.
Freshness, yeah.
Oh yeah, cucumber in drinks is phenomenal.
Oh, I can't do it. I hate cucumber. The taste of a cucumber just is overwhelming to me. I can't do it. I cannot do it.
All right. So what would you guys pair with root? What I'm gonna throw you on the spot here. You got to pick up something.
Dirt.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I think it
Well,
would
with
have
your
to be
flavor profile, it's not too far off.
okay. So Andrew, give me a wine with earthy overtones.
All right. So generally, you want to go Tempranillo at that point out of Spain.
Okay, so that along with a shepherd's pie or a cottage pie, depending on your.
Is that all you eat? You got to eat other things. Man.
I eat meat and cheese and potatoes. Okay, so how about a? Well, give me a minute on the food, but
Okay.
Mike, you come up with something for root, and then I'll steal it.
All right. I'm not very good at coming up with these on the fly, so I'm kind of like Googling certain concepts that come to my brain, and let's see what drink comes out of that. So the first thing I thought of with root was like woodland creatures, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what I just found is a thing called a wet woody cocktail.
Okay.
I kind of love that already.
Right? So this wet woody cocktail is a vibrant and fruity cocktail that combines a rich tapestry of flavors with its medley of peach schnapps, pineapple juice, orange juice, cranberry juice, white rum, sour mix, and a touch of overproof rum, which I actually don't know what that means. Overproof rum?
I'm assuming that just means a much higher proof, like they went further than they should go at that point, or traditionally goes.
Yeah, not exactly like the bourbon guys who call it barrel proof, right?
Right.
Mike, we were drinking at the Yard House. I found it.
Yard House. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, they were good.
All right, Mike, I just sent you Tim's wine pairing. I picked out a Tempranillo for him.
There we go. I love it, and it's on theme as well.
Oh yeah, this one's a little fuzzy, but that's okay.
Yeah, I couldn't get a better in.
That's all right.
But you get the gist. So
the
Fabula, it's got a bunny on the front of it. It's a Tempranillo from Spain. So there you go. Nice. I got your Tempranillo for you.
I like it. I like it. Andrew to the rescue. All right. So how about with root? We have some foie gras. Let's just do that.
Nice.
I have no idea how foie gras would pair with my wine selection.
Not great.
Badly, right?
Great.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, listen, we are exploring flavor profiles just to see what happens.
So yeah, kind of what we were thinking. It's a higher proof. It's just rum's term for a higher proof. It's cask strength. Yeah, 63%. Good Lord. Wow. I mean, I've got like old granddad 114 sitting over there. I think that's the highest proof whiskey I've got.
That's the highest you need to go. I don't know if you need to go higher. I mean, if you're doing higher than that, you're just doing Everclear at that point. So
all right, Andrew.
Hey, Evan.
For my next one, I'm gonna need, because I couldn't come up with a beverage pairing for this. I'm gonna need a South American wine.
Sure.
Something that would go with jerky.
With jerky.
Yes.
All right. So jerky is obviously very dry.
Right.
It's generally beefy. Are you going with beef jerky or are you going pork jerky or?
We're going exotic because my game is going to either be Ark Nova or Darwin's Journey. And so maybe like an ostrich jerky or a gator.
Okay.
Pick a zoo animal jerky.
Sure. Okay.
So we need a wine to go with that. So maybe something a little gamey.
Sure.
This is Tim's journey through the jerkies of the world.
I was a meat cutter out of high school. It was one of my first jobs out of high school. And we had all these weird exotic jerkies like on a display, and I tried a bunch of them. I was like, they all kind of taste just like whatever crap seasoning that they put on them. You know, they all just tasted like liquid smoke or teriyaki or, whatever.
Right. I mean, that's generally how they cover up those flavor profiles. So
yeah.
I mean, I would think you'd probably want to go Chilean. A Chilean cab is probably your best bet. I don't know how much I can explain the pairings so much as far as just being like a Chilean cab is generally a very good wine. You could go Malbec, but the Malbec would be a little lighter as far as that goes, and you probably need a little more robust to counteract the heavy spicing of the dried meats there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I would probably just go with Chilean cab.
Yeah, so that's what I would do. I would do either Arc Nova or Darwin's Journey with exotic jerkies. Maybe even at a point in time where you could go, I am eating the animal that I am building an enclosure for, or that I've just discovered.
All right, Mike, will you throw up my Arc Nova pick, please? Because I did
you had an Arc Nova pick. Excellent.
But this is an interesting one because this is a winery in Arizona, of all places. But they paired with a local they played with a local zoo, and they actually created a line of wines that have different animals on them. It is a cab blend. Once again, I'm not attesting to the quality of the wine. I'm only attesting to the pairing. But this is Wines of the Wild, and so
nice.
You could find whatever animal you put in your zoo first, and go ahead and pour that bottle.
So is each animal their own style of their own grape, their own wine, or do they just put whatever animal all on the same?
I fully cop to not knowing.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I didn't know if they had commissioned, that many different wines, or it's like, hey, like for me, I'd be like, give me the monkey wine, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's how cultured I am.
I mean, at least you don't ask for the kangaroo wine, because we all know that's terrible. So
right.
That's good.
Yeah, isn't that what is that kangaroo tail?
Yeah, that's bad. And also Little Penguin is another really bad one. So not all animal wines are made the same. But yeah, I mean, there are so many great wines that have animals on it. It's actually one of the trends that are out there right now. So they've actually done studies. I think it's wines that have an animal on them sell 15% more than wines that do not. So this is a trend that will continue to move that way until the world decides they're done looking at animals on wine labels. So it's not hard to find one. I found it hard to find a spread.
Oh, sure. And I think I see what David's talking about, because if you look closely, it looks like that white label is overlaying because it looks like there's another label peeking out of the top and the bottom.
It's actually a notch in there. They did it for design purposes.
Yeah. Oh, I see that now.
Totally see why you think that. And by the way, that's also a great way to pair. If you want to create your own wine label, there are, you could do it like with Canva or something like that. Print it out on sticker paper. Go ahead and cut it out, and then just drop it on whatever bottle you want to drink. And you look all fancy. So yeah, you can always dress up the bottle you've purchased that's terrible.
There we go.
I'm not sure how to feel about anteater wine.
Well,
that's interesting.
Again, earthy overtones. Never mind the little crunchy bits in there.
I figured Tim was jumping on the animal wine trend when I saw some winking owl from Aldi in his fridge.
Ah, there you go.
Winking,
that's not true.
I was like, what?
It's a very cheap wine you can buy at Aldi.
I was like, was there wine in my fridge when you were at my house?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Nice.
All right, so I only got one left, which means you guys have more to do. What else you got?
Mike, why don't you? Mike, are you ready for one? I got a bunch.
Yeah. I got my existing one. Now
all of mine are terrible, but I've got a bunch.
Not all of mine have both food and drink, so I can ask for the assist on those.
Sure, I'm happy to assist.
Okay, so I talked about a Moscow Mule, so I had to find a game to pair with it. And why not Resurgence?
I was going to say Resurgence.
Based in Russia. So we've got a Moscow Mule with Resurgence, which is a fantastic game, by the way. Really, really love that one. Now, what to drink with a Moscow Mule, or what to eat with a Moscow Mule, I'm not too sure.
Well, you got to go caviar with that, right? Like that's just the way you got to go. And actually, ginger beer goes well with caviar, so that's not a terrible pairing. It's why champagne goes so well, right? Like, so you get that little bit of bubble, you get the effervescence, and I think that makes sense. I mean, I see Tim going caviar is terrible. All right, then go ahead and get sushi with some roe on top, and you can get it that way.
Listen, I've had caviar one time. It was on a cruise ship. And I'm sure it was not good caviar, but
Probably not.
it was offered to me. I tried it and immediately regretted it.
All right. So more generic location pairings where I actually did combine two things. Speaking of sushi, I did pair sushi with Eric Lang's Rising Sun and
Ah,
Yamazaki single malt.
okay. All right. Going
So we've got
a little more Eastern cut. I like it. I dig it.
yeah. Yeah. Also a fantastic game.
So how about this then? So Andrew, I'm gonna need a New Zealand wine.
Okay. All right. So, interesting fact. Actually, I almost paired Darwin's Journey with New Zealand wine because a little known fact about Darwin's Journey is he actually went to New Zealand first before he went down there. And he's actually one of the first Europeans from the England area to experience New Zealand wine in its natural habitat. And he actually went to one of the places where they were growing some of the first grapes and stuff like that and actually tasted it before he went down there. So I think a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is a great pick for that one. Um, New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs are signature. They taste like their place.
Ah,
One of the things they taste like, and this is going to make you guys laugh, it's going to be crass, you're going to love this. It tastes a little like cat piss. It is
okay.
a pungent and sharp flavor profile. It is considered to be one of those kind of weirdly acquired tastes. There are people out there that will describe wines in ways that are unpleasant, but the flavor profile actually is pleasant. But the only way to describe where that flavor profile is moving toward is to describe the unpleasant thing.
It's like salt and
So,
vinegar potato chips. I get it.
right.
Yeah.
If someone ever says this tastes like barnyard, that's basically saying it tastes like animal shit. But somehow that is softened in a way that makes it slightly pleasant and earthy, like a mushroom kind of level thing.
Mhm.
But it's more pungent than that. It's like when you eat a stinky cheese, right? Like you smell it and you're like, oh, that's maybe not great. But you taste it and you're like, wow, that actually tastes different than the smell. But the
Mhm.
smell is the thing you describe it by because that's the easy thing to describe.
Love it. I love it. I love it. So the game and well, the food is you could do honey cakes with
Sure.
this. You could do second breakfast because I'm talking about War of the Ring. Uh, so if we're gonna go with a game and a pairing, because here's the thing: is War of the Ring takes a while to play. So you eat breakfast, you show up to play War of the Ring, you take a break, have second breakfast, or maybe some honey cakes, or what's the bread? Limas bread. What's the bread that's wrapped in a leaf? There's a thing.
Yeah.
Uh, anyways, or seed cake, I think is another thing that they
Sure.
eat. And then yeah, that Sauvignon Blanc uh, 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 wine from New
Yeah.
Zealand.
We'll go with that.
That's what we're going with.
Nice.
Lambus bread. That's what it was.
Nice. All right. We'll continue with the locations. We were south. Let's go north. Everybody got tired of me talking about it for a while, but I visited Alaska last year. It's the most amazing place I've ever been in my life. So
I
now
also
I'm
went last year and I loved the hell out of it. So yes, keep going.
we'll
Awesome.
talk about that more later and where you went. But I am now obsessed with going to cold places that have glaciers, and there's only a few other places to see those, and one of them is Iceland.
Yep.
One of the reasons I became obsessed with Iceland is because of the box cover to Earth. That is a picture taken from a very famous place in Iceland. So I actually looked, and there's this stuff called Brennivin. Have you heard of this, Andrew?
I don't think I know Brennivin. Please explain.
All right, so I'm literally on Wikipedia because I'm like, okay, tell me what the drink and food of Iceland is. Yeah, I'll have one of those someday. This is like bucket list. I'm going to Iceland before I die. Brennivin is considered to be Iceland's signature distilled beverage. It is distilled from fermented grain mash and then combined with Iceland's very soft, high pH water and flavored only with caraway. I don't actually know what that is. A clear, savory herbal spirit. The taste is often described as having notes of fresh rye bread. It is typically bottled at 80 proof. The actual word Brennivín means burning wine and has the same origin as brandy. It is tied to the history of Iceland. Iceland was settled in the late 9th century. And they've been drinking this stuff there, I guess, for centuries.
Wayne, I have never had fermented shark, and I'm intrigued. I think now I got to try that out. Now, is that like great white shark, or is it hammerhead, or like is it a lower level shark, like like a bala shark or something like that? Like, what level of shark are we having fermented here? I got to know.
I've heard fermented shark is very good, actually. That's I don't know what kind.
Well,
Ooh,
considering our
good
love of
pick.
fermented beverages, why not fermented shark, right? Like,
Right? Good one. Good one. These are the best. These are the best. Every one of these I've had, Andrew, are just phenomenal. Like they just burst with flavor. And that's your pick of an ice wine here.
yeah, I mean, if you're going to go glacier, you got to go ice wine. So here's the cool thing about ice wine. What they allow it to do is the grape grows and it continues to grow until the frost. Then they pick it frozen and they crush it so that only the littlest bit of juice comes out of it. But that juice that does come out is the most flavorful possible grape juice. So that's how you make ice wine essentially. And I mean, there's more to the process, but that's one of the reasons why it only comes in very small bottles is because you only get a little bit from the harvest. But it becomes this infinitely crazy level of sweetness and intensity. So a little bit goes a long way. But I would recommend this. If you've never had it, it's another thing to try.
Wow, ice wine.
Ice wine just with flavor. It is
Yeah.
incredible.
I feel like they could make that in Michigan pretty easily.
Oh,
They
yeah.
do. They do.
Okay.
That's where
Okay.
I've had it.
Okay.
But when you drink it, you drink out of a cordial glass. I mean, like tiny.
Oh, sure.
Like,
Yeah.
You don't do more than sip a tiny bit at a time.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's literally like throwing 30 Skittles in your mouth at once. Not quite, but it's just just explosion of flavor in your mouth. It's amazing. Great call there. I totally forgot about that stuff.
Nice, James. Well done.
And you paired that with Earth, right, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. Earth or Uwe Rosenberg's old game Reykjavik, which I've never played, but that is actually a town in Iceland.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go back to movie themes here because that's my sweet spot.
Okay.
Here's the great thing about this movie. This is a world traveler. The game is going to be Fortune and Glory.
Okay, sure. You
Fortune and Glory, kid.
Little Indiana Jones ripoff there. I like
That's right. Okay. That's right. It's we don't want to say ripoff. We want to say IP adjacent. But yeah, it's a ripoff.
Homage.
And we're gonna do some Crystal Skull vodka with dates. But don't get the bad
Crystal
ones.
Skull vodka is done by Dan Aykroyd, so you could definitely go Ghostbusters with that one as well. But continue on, please.
You could, but he's also technically in Temple of Doom for about 30 seconds. He's got a real quick cameo when Indy is getting away and he's getting on the plane at the beginning of the movie, the one that crashes in India. Dan Aykroyd is the agent the guy that is helping him get on the plane.
I will have to look for that next time. That's cool.
You can kind of see him, but if you listen, you can hear the voice. And Dan Aykroyd has a voice, right, that you cannot miss, especially if you know him, right? I know he's Canadian, but living in the Chicago area, nobody does a Chicago accent like Dan Aykroyd.
He's pretty solid, yeah.
I mean, he is a blues brother, which is my favorite musical of all time.
Get him a bucket to ice his marbles and send him on his way.
There you go. Thank you. Tommy boy. Anyways, so yeah, Crystal Skull vodka for obvious reasons, and then dates because there is a pivotal scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark involving dates. I have no idea how dates taste, so I don't know how they actually pair with vodka, but let's just say they work.
Man, poor thing.
And if you got to add something to that vodka to make it pair well, vodka is very versatile, right? So you can add things to vodka to make it work, I feel like. So do you like dates, Andrew? You said you poor thing. Yeah,
absolutely. Dates, especially right off the tree, is kind of special. And actually, if you go to a lot of wineries, they usually have fruit trees somewhere around the property. And dates are very popular because those trees get nice and big. They create nice shade. Dates and vodka does work, and I do recommend it, especially if it's bacon wrap dates. That's a really delicious combo.
Oh my God, anything in bacon is amazing. So All right.
Ooh.
Hey, I accidentally had a great pairing. You're welcome.
Okay. Since we're on vodka, I'll give you one of the games I paired with vodka, and it's Endless Winter, published by Fantasia and designed by, again, Stan Kordonsky. Why did I go with Endless Winter for a vodka? Because upon doing a little bit of research, I found some stuff called caveman vodka. This stuff is actually made
Nice.
in California, and it says always handcrafted from the finest California grapes instead of grains. This is a vodka crafted with grapes. I'm just, I'm just interested in whatever this is. This sounds awesome. So there you go, caveman game, endless winter with caveman vodka.
I feel like you need to have lamb chops with this. You need like a greasy meat on a bone to pair with this, with Endless Winter. I don't know if you can find some mastodon or something that would go well too.
I found the website here, but it's the spirit of paleo, even is what it says right at the top of the website. So what better to pair with Endless Winter, Paleo Americans, paleo, whatever it was. Drawing a blank now.
Okay, so I'm gonna cheat with my next one. There's a game that's not out yet, but it's coming out that we have gotten to play. Mike loves this game. It is designed by somebody that I call a friend. Sorry, Andrew, it's not your game because I don't know enough about wine. I would insult your game if I tried to pair a wine with Wine Cellar. You'd be like, well, okay, well, thanks. You'd be very sweet about it, but it would be an insult nonetheless. But there is a thing that I do know. I do know there is a local place here in town called Fiddler's Hearth. It's an Irish pub, and they have a beverage there called the Blacksmith. Where it is a Guinness mixed with a Smittix. So it's kind of like a black and tan, but you get get sort of like that nutty, like out of the Smittix with the Guinness. It's really good. Forges of Ravenshire, where you are
going. Yeah, I've heard really good things about that one.
Oh, it's an excellent game. It's really cool. It's very neat. You're trying to become like the lead blacksmith in your town in Ravenshire, and it's a really neat dice. Your dice are your workers, and the values. When you put a die on the board and you pull one off on another location, so you're constantly getting stuff. Your engine building. It's really good. Looks great, and one of my favorite drinks to get when I go to Fiddler's Hearth. I love to get the fish and chips because they wrap it in newspaper, and then I get a Blacksmith. It's Guinness and Smittix together, and that's my favorite. One of my favorite things to do. So I guess I would just have the fish and chips with it as well, because I'm already in heaven. So
I think that might be your best pairing so far tonight. That's great. That's a nice combo. Really well done.
I'll take it.
That's good. Earlier, I'm glad he omitted it because earlier he told me he was going to pair your game with a box of Franzia. So,
well, you know what? They both come in a box. I guess I see where he's going with that.
Well, I was going to go.
I'm throwing him under the bus
with the Carlo Rossi gallon. We used to buy in high school from Walgreens for like $8.99, and because we were poor, and we're like, let's try wine. And it was like, oh, it was not
a lot of restaurants use that to cook with. They don't use that.
Monty Python bit where he's going through, Eric Idle is going through all these different types of wines, and he talks about this Australian wine, and he's like, and this is a fighting wine. Like, not that you drink it and want to fight, it's that you break it over somebody's head, you know. And then there was another wine that was for putting down and avoiding, which feels like most of the wines I have bought in my life. And I know Bobby watching the show knows what I'm talking about. And yes, he is right. The Fiddler's Hearth is the absolute best fish and chips in town. They're really
all right. Next time I come and visit you, I'll have the fish and chips.
We'll go Fiddler's. We'll go to Fiddler's. It's a whole experience. We'll go on a night when they've got live music, which is like 3 or 4 nights a week. It's amazing. It's a whole ambiance. It's as close as I've gotten to being back in Ireland without being there. The best fish and chips I ever had in my life. We stopped at this place in the Ring of Kerry, and it was like a straw thatched roof restaurant, like little restaurant, but it was looked like a cabin almost. Sure. It was tiny. It was amazing. Oh my God, it was so good. Anyways, you feel like they caught the fish right out. Like you walk outside and it's like a cliff drops down and then there's the Atlantic Ocean. You know what I mean? Like you just cannot get, I guess, unless you go to Iceland for the cover of Earth, you just don't get more picturesque than that. But out of the stuff that I've seen with my own eyes, that was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
Nice.
But okay, so yeah, Forges of Ravenshire with a blacksmith and some fish and chips.
Nice. All right, I have an Indiana reference here.
Okay.
I haven't played this, but I know Tim was really talking this up. And you know what? It's published by 25th Century. So let's go with Mutton Bustin'. So Mutton Bustin' has Indiana State Fair as a component.
Well, that's just in the Gen Con release.
Okay, but it exists. All right.
Hold on.
So what Indiana food? When I think of Indiana food, I think of a massive breaded pork tenderloin that's way too big for the tiny little bun. That's what I think of.
Right? You
What's
got it
that?
On a stick.
No stick. In my opinion, yes, sir. My favorite Indiana beer, I would go over to Three Floyds. Take your pick. But Zombie
Gumball
Dust
Head
is
my
excellent.
choice, but yeah,
Gumball Head is phenomenal. I wish I'd have the chance to try Dark Lord one of these days, but I haven't done that. But yeah, Zombie Dust or Gumball Head with a big old breaded tenderloin and mutton busted.
Mike, have you been over to Bare Hands Brewery? That's out my way. You might like Bare Hands Brew.
I don't think I have.
They're decent. They're pretty good.
No, I have not been to that one. I really like the Crooked U though.
Crooked U's fine. No, it's Evil Czech. I'm mad at Evil Czech because they replaced my Mishawaka Brew Pub, which is where I used to get my Irish meat pies and my Four Horsemen Ale. And so like I always am just a little bitter going into that place because it's just not, for me, it's just not what it once was. But as I have demonstrated, I like an Irish pub, and it is not that.
I'm shocked by your clothing that always says the Irish on it, so I can't imagine like an Irish pub.
I know.
In fact,
right?
I wonder if like the listeners have a game where they're like, if he ever wears clothing that doesn't have an Irish logo on it, is there like bingo, or they shout out, you get a prize or something like that?
We do joke about there being a bingo, like Mike talks about Alaska, iBuffer, things like that. So we have
literally made a bingo sheet of the stuff that recurs on the show. I'm
still technically wearing Notre Dame, even though I'm wearing a shirt. I just grabbed a shirt out of the closet, and this is for a game that was in Kickstarter last year. It's called The Four Horsemen. And it's about you're trying to prevent the apocalypse from coming. It had a successful crowdfunding. I don't remember if it was Game Found or Kickstarter. But anyways, it was a game I thought was cool. The guy gave me a shirt. I'm like, well, you're going to wear it. All right, Mike, I got two left that are worthy of talk. Technically three, but two that I really want to hit. Do you want to go Mediterranean or do you want to go New York City?
Oh no, give me Mediterranean. Let's get some olive oil out there. Let's get some hummus. Let's get let's go Mediterranean.
Are you ready to regret your decision?
Of course.
Okay, good. So the game
I came on the show, didn't I?
You did, yeah. It's been all regret ever since. So the game I picked is a game from 2008 that I've never heard of, but I needed a game in the Mediterranean. It's called Hannibal's War. Okay, it's a war game. You're trying to gain control of the land surrounding the Mediterranean, right? So that's what we're doing. And I recommend this with liver and fava beans paired with a nice Chianti.
I knew it was coming.
The second I said Hannibal, right? The second I said Hannibal? Yeah. I couldn't lead with that one, but that was the first thing I wrote down. The second you said food pairings, I'm like, okay, how do I get liver and fava beans? How do I get... Me neither, Mike. Me neither.
That game looks like chits. That really does. And you're. Oh
so
my God.
I do have a question though. I do have a question from the foodie. Does Chianti pair with liver and fava beans?
I actually don't think it does, but
Okay.
I could imagine there a scenario where a specific Chianti might actually go with it. But fava beans have kind of like a
The
not
Texas Chainsaw
really.
Massacre was technically one as well. But
Yeah, I can't think of a pairing that would be worse than I think fava beans and Chianti, in my opinion. I think you could do a lot better with almost any meat would go better with a Chianti than any white mushy vegetable. That's
so
like the only way to eat
clearly,
fava beans is to boil them down and mix them with something else.
clearly Thomas Harris is not a foodie.
Right.
Yeah. But I
And
do
if you want to
like.
do that, you would absolutely go white with that because I think that's the way you got to go with it. And you could go with like Sauvignon Blanc. You could go with like a Viognier, which is a little more creamier. I mean, there's a lot of things you can go with the fava beans. I just wouldn't go Chianti.
What is it? What is a Chianti actually?
So it's difficult to explain, except that I can give it the flavor profile, right? So a Chianti is definitely a more robust red, but it's
Okay.
not as heavy as like a Cab or like a Zinfandel. It's probably a little lighter than those, but it's heavier than a Pinot Noir. So I'd say it's like kind of closer to like a Shiraz level of depth to it. But a Chianti is one of those things that like is so known because it's so well produced across all of Italy that like most of the villagers have their own. That doesn't
Oh,
mean that it's great, although because it's local, it's better than average. So it's more like the wine equivalent of a local craft beer, right? Like where it tastes better than it should, but doesn't mean it travels. It doesn't mean it's going to go to other states and sell
right,
very well. Like that's
right.
kind of how I view Chiantis.
I like it. This is why I ask. But that was the other thing, right? This was like totally.
Oh, John, what a great little factoid. I didn't actually understand that. That's well done, sir.
So it's implying that he isn't taking his meds. So it's a bad pairing because he
Yeah,
didn't take his. Well, but the thing is he, well, I guess it could have been a hollow threat, but it also, maybe he actually did it. Because I mean, that's the thing with Hannibal is like, he's saying all of these things and it's like, well, did he really? I will say though that Hannibal Lecter only ate rude people, and that's very important to know. So be
sure.
nice.
That's what he tells you.
Well, also
So there's
true.
that.
But he,
Real quick though, since John is on and listening, I have to say John is a phenomenal designer. He has a couple of games coming out, and they're all really good. Thing 12 is showcasing right now his game. I found Bigfoot. Highly recommend checking that out when you get a chance. It's a really cool little game.
okay, so hold on then, Andrew. How do we get John on the show? Because
I think
I
you just
love
ask him right now. I think he can come
John.
on.
Reach out to us, dude. I love there's nothing more than I love meeting game designers, developers, people that just love board games. Like, I love meeting you guys, talking to you guys, hang out with you guys. Because everybody, like, we all love board games, right? That's like one thing we all have in common. But then we
Right.
all come at it from different angles, and different perspectives. And which is one of the things that is like so much fun talking, like Andrew, for example, right? Like we're talking about stuff. I'm a movie fanatic. I bring up a very famous movie quote. It's like, okay, so how much bullshit is this? Like, okay, is this good or not? Like,
Right.
and I get to learn something out of it. And I
And
love it.
then John chimed in with something I didn't even know, which is
I
even
love,
better. That's awesome.
yeah, no, I love it. I think that's great. Oh wait, Andrew, did you already tell them about your upcoming game? No, we didn't have Andrew to talk about Wine Cellar. We don't know anything about it, and we don't
All
want to
right,
know
you know
anything.
what? Let's take a little quick pause because I gotta help Evan out because Evan hasn't seen the game yet. So let's pull up this file again. Let's pull it up. So show the box in the back.
Oh, he hasn't seen anything? What?
I think he saw the box, but I don't think he's seen the cards and stuff like that. So let me just kind of do a breakdown for this.
And no judgment for Baby Time. I loved it when my children were babies. I'm so glad they're not babies anymore, but I love babies. Like they're so sweet and snuggly, and they have a smell. It's really weird,
They
but
do.
like, yeah, they do. Anyways, so not only like show off your game a little bit, but Mike and I were drooling a little bit about the mechanics in your game because they are mechanics that we love in game. So please give us a description.
All right. So what I wanted to create with this game was I wanted a way to show people what wine is without preaching. Like, right? Like, so the game has to be fun for people to play it, but also I wanted them to take this as a way to step into It's a wine tasting note. Yeah. I don't even know where to go with that, but that's funny. So in this game, you get a handful of cards, and the cards have a value on them. So you can see on the cards in the upper left-hand corner, there's a number, right? That's your bid value. So when you play that card, you get that level toward being able to pick first. So if I play a high card, I'm likely going to pick first. If I pick a low card, I'm likely to pick last. So you do that, and there's a couple of cards in the center, one for every person in the game. So everybody puts their cards face down, flips them over, then you draft in order of your bid value. So I maybe get to pick first, and then Tim picks second, and then Mike picks third. He's stuck with what's left over. But here's the cool part of this game. Whatever you bid with becomes the prize for the next round. So you can plan ahead the thing that you need when you do it, which I think is really kind of cool. Also, Mike, if you could pull up a picture of the cards, I want to show something on that too.
Yep. I don't know what order these are in. There we
So
go.
each bottle has its own signature timeline, which kind of works with the way the wine actually ages. It's not perfect. It's gamified. If I were to make it perfect, there'd be a lot of like 6, 7, 8s, and 0s. But instead, I wanted to make it so each of them had a timeline. Each of them had a single number of 1 through 8 on it. So you can see, like on the first one, the Cava, it starts at a 6, dips slightly to a 5, then increases to a priority of 8, and then tails down from that. So I made each of them have different, basically, timelines of value, and the timeline represents the pinnacle of its taste profile. So what you're trying to do is trying to line these up in your cellar in a way that you get the best value in the one slot on top, then the best value in the second slot second, and so on down the line. Mike, if you pull the next one up, that shows them all stacked. So as you take the wines from the center as prizes, you put them in your cellar, you lay them on the side, which is the best way to store wine. And then each bottle you add to it can either be put before or after, but never in between. So you're always adding to the outside. So you got to plan ahead a little bit, and you got to make things work. But then you score it. So the top card scores the 1, the second card scores the 2, the third card scores the 3. And so this case, it would be a 6, a 7, a 5, and a 4.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's how the game works. You can play it in 20 minutes. You can play with up to 8 people. And actually, if you wanted to, you could put a second box down. You could play with 16 people. And I can only imagine how wild that would get. But I'm not sure I want to play with 16 people and try to do the bidding and all that different thing like that with that.
Right.
But that said, this was meant to be the kind of game that you can play with your grandparents, you can play with your parents, you can play with your wine friends, and hopefully this leads them into finding out what other kind of card games exist and drags them kicking and screaming into our hobby.
Yes.
I also designed this as the kind of thing that you can give to your wine snob friends, and it'll actually impress them, because you're going to find all these obscure wines listed on the cards with actual close to real flavor profiles and close to real timelines on them. So that's what I do with this game, and that's how you play. And I will be demoing it at Tantrum Con. So if anybody's going to be there, seek me out. I'll show you the cards, and we can play, and you can check it out.
It's amazing.
Do you know if this is going to retail or if it's going to be crowdfunded? Do you know?
So I've heard that they're leaning toward Kickstarter, and I've heard they're going to pair it with a couple other games that people might enjoy in this subgenre of things.
I see what they're doing there.
Zero information except that the people who buy this game might be the same people who buy other games in the games he's going to be releasing soon. He has not announced any of those yet, so I can't say, but we're looking at probably March, April when the Kickstarter is going to launch. Awesome.
That was my next question.
Dude. I was interested just by like reading and like getting the little tidbits, but actually having you like explain it and seeing the scoring like that, fantastic. Very interested. Love it. Man, that sounds really good.
You can just absolutely tell that is Dutray art. I love it.
Oh yeah. Well, also beautiful to boot, right? Yeah, so you should pair that game with me because I want it. That's my
Well, the next time we're hanging out, I'll show it to you. No question.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's really cool. Hey, John says it's really good.
John helped me play test it, so he definitely knows.
Awesome.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, they've done a lot of play testing as well. So,
John,
okay,
I'm not joking though. John, reach out to Mike or myself. We're on Facebook. We're on Board Game Rundown. We've got a Discord, all that good stuff. Reach out to us, dude. I'd love to talk to you, get to know you, and see what you got going on. Because yeah, it's my favorite thing about doing the show. Yeah, you could email us. One of my favorite things about doing the show is just getting to meet like people that are in the hobby. I love to fanboy over them. It's my version of meeting celebrities that I really, and then, like, I'm just in awe of not only, like Andrew and other designers, not only their creativity, but their bravery. You put a game, because I mean, the world can be a cruel place, and you put a game out there and you work really hard on this game and you're like, I've got this really good game. And I imagine that your game, because some games can get, if you, depending on where you go with it, they can get like a movie or a book or anything else. It can get hacked up in development. But I feel like your vision is what's going to come out, right? I mean, your game is basically done. It could go to retail or Kickstarter. So your game is done, like essentially. And it's so, God, it's got to be nerve wracking to like put that piece of your soul out there and go, hey guys, I hope you like this. And
so I will agree with that on some level, but also on some level, as a game designer, I'm sure you've read Stephen King, right? Like, so his
almost everything
on writing, right?
On writing, yep.
The way he describes it is he creates it, but then it grows on its own. It finds its own voice, right? So like every game that I make during the playtest process, it's the feedback that I get back from people. And not all feedback is the same, but it's the feedback that I get that tells me the way that it needs to grow. Mm-hmm. So I almost consider them closer to children than I do to my own being.
Nice.
Like they are part of me. They came from me, but they also grew in their own way, and they blossomed and they flowered in a way that I didn't necessarily expect.
Oh, sure. Awesome. I love it. What a great analogy. That's so good. But I just have so much respect for you guys. You make games, you put it out, you go through, you sit through the grueling play tests, you go to protospiels, you have people that just sit down. There's people, I don't get these people. There are people that sit down at protospiels and they don't want to like anything. And they just are unhappy and they don't like it. It's like, well, what games do you like? Because it sounds like you're just so upset. We actually hosted a protospiel in South Bend, like right before COVID happened. And it was an awesome experience. But like literally, yes, there were people that would come in and they're like, oh, this sucked. It's like, really? Like I played that. I thought it was pretty cool. Like, yeah, it needed this or that, but I wouldn't say it sucked, like I would play that again. I'd love to see where it goes next.
Well, I'll give those people credit though. They showed up, right? And every one of those people made those games better, even with negative feedback.
Sure.
Because every piece of feedback has a nugget of truth behind it that the designer has to whittle away and find. But there's every person who plays your game and touches your game and gives you some feedback is a blessing. Whether you like it or not at the time, it is a blessing. It'll teach you something if you're willing to learn from it.
For sure.
I recently played a play test with people who don't normally play games, and it was an abstract kind of movement game. And the first thing they said to me is like, well, why aren't we rolling dice to find out how far to move? And I was like, all right, that's a piece of feedback. And I'm not saying I know exactly what to do with that, but that tells me about how close my game is to a mass audience versus the niche audience that we all live in. So every piece of feedback can teach you something, and then you got to figure out whether to implement that properly.
Well, I mean, I got to talk to Eric Lang at Origins, and he's so nice and he's very open. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can ask him anything, and that's a very cool thing about him. He is right. At least when I talked to him 6 months ago, was trying to crack mass market games, right? And that's kind of like brushes on like what you're talking about, and I mean this as a compliment, but like sort of the simplicity of what Wine Cellar sounds like and how straightforward it is. And by simplicity, I just mean low rules overhead.
Yes.
You laid it out and it's like, okay, because my in-laws do not want a 30-minute teach to a board game. You want to be able to go, it's this, let's go. Right.
Here's a handful of cards. You pick one to put down. Highest person picks first, second highest picks second, and then you just go from there. And yes, it's meant to be able to taught in 2 minutes.
If you're at a Target, a Walmart, a Barnes and Noble, a big box store, whatever, people aren't looking for on Mars. They're not looking for that. They're not looking for Lisboa. They need something. They're shopping down a different aisle right now.
Yep.
Doesn't mean they're not going to get to that aisle, or they don't like that aisle, or won't like that aisle or appreciate it. But it's just awesome if you can get something that's so close and so accessible, because then that really not only draws people in, but there's so many of those, like your game. Wine Cellar could very easily be a game that like we would take to a meetup, and while we're waiting for other people to show up, all the hardcore surly gamers that I know, we'd play, we could play that, a couple of times in a row, have an awesome time, and then we go on and play something super crunchy. We go on and play Anachrony, or, something, crazy heavy worker placement, and have just as much fun as we did, playing a Wine Cellar or something,
Yeah, that's obviously my hope, and that's what I tried to create. And, they say whenever you design your first of something, right, you just go with what you know. And so I happen to know wine, and I also know that there's not that many good wine games out there. There's Viticulture, there's Vinos, and then it becomes more of a wasteland. I mean, there's a few things you could toss in here and there, but there's not a lot. I mean, there's a couple things come out, like Age of Champagne is supposed to be really good. I haven't tried that one yet. Or Dom Perignon is supposed to be interesting. I haven't tried that one yet. But there's still a place for a simple, easy card game that touches a genre that a lot of people in the world love and don't have access to games through. So this is just another bridge that I'm putting out there to people who love wine, or you have friends that love wine, and maybe you can have them dip their toe in the board game world.
Well, and so, okay, so I'm going to segue expertly, because that's what I do, into my next one. But here, that's like the awesome thing about your game is, so the other game that you could pair very easily with some amazing foods and some really interesting food choices would be charcuterie.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's the
obvious. Yeah, absolutely.
That's
the charcuterie. Yeah.
That is the obvious pick. You build a charcuterie board to your taste. So I won't even name specific foods, because a charcuterie board literally can be almost anything.
It's nuts, it's fruit, it's meats. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you could play a game like charcuterie. So your game, again, right? Like you could do a wine and cheese party and play Wine Cellar, and
totally good.
And it would be perfect, because you'd be like, okay, everybody like bring something that's in this game. Like,
right.
Let me just list you off all these different wine types. Everybody pick a different one. Check you off the list. Okay, that one's gone. You can't do that one. Okay, I'm going to get this one instead. And I would go for the hipster one. I'd try to find like the hardest to find one, just to be a jerk like that. But yeah, so charcuterie would be sort of the same thing. Also, just a really fun game anyways. Yeah, you do up your charcuterie board. We actually had a local woman who made a game just last year. It went to Kickstarter. It's not charcuterie, but it's charcuterie-esque. It's called Nosh. And the board is actually, you assemble it, and it is it's got like sweet and savory and salty and all these different like spice, these locations. Okay. And then you bring your own food and you put it on the board. And it's not what hardcore gamers or niche gamers would call a game, because what you do is you roll and you move and you slide down your little spoon to the different level. But every time you move, you draw a card, and it's going to give you an experience, and you have to ask somebody about this particular experience that they had. So this game is like 100% just like an icebreaker, let's hang out and talk kind of game. And then, but yes, you populate the board with like, Cracker Jacks, right? I mean, it could be anything you like. You could put anything on there.
Yeah, and Mike's game asked him about Alaska and it's smoked salmon. I get it. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, you can put anything on it. But like charcuterie, again, sort of, I kind of put them both together in the same vein because spiritually they're very similar, even though they're also very different. Charcuterie is much more of a board game as a hobby board gamer would, would talk about it, where Nosh is more of just like a social experience. But what are board games if they're not social experiences at their core, right? But yeah, so charcuterie, any beverage you want, whatever would pair well with your particular charcuterie board. That was my pick. Mike, did I steal yours? Did you have charcuterie on yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw the perfect avenue to segue back into the topic, and I had to take it.
You certainly did.
All right, so for the people in the chat who are still here, throw out a couple of games. So we put us on the spot. Make us pick some pairings. Go ahead and throw some things on the chat.
Oh,
while they're coming. Yeah, no, I don't want to talk at all, Tim.
Go for it, Mike.
Okay. While they're coming up with their options here, so I have regional. We were out in a region Tim was talking about, and I got blown away by Stefan Feld's Marrakesh last year. Marrakesh is a city in Morocco.
Sure.
One of the more well-known Moroccan food, and I don't know how to pronounce this, tagine. It's a meat and fruit in a stew. And meat and fruit in a stew just sounds amazing to me. I'm just super interested in this. But it's paired with a flatbread, and that just sounds fantastic to me. Yeah, Marrakesh paired with a Moroccan food. Yes, once again, the location's too easy. While they're also coming up with their options here, I did not get to mention the one from the brewery you already mentioned. Dragon's Milk is my favorite beer.
Yeah. New Holland.
Bourbon barrel stout from New Holland. It is fantastic. I love it. I love all the variations of it, like the one where they added caramel. I would pair that with Dwellings of Eldervale because of that gorgeous dragon on the front.
Sure. I mean, you could also put that with Fantasy Realms. Thank you, Evan. That would be a good fit for that one. I was actually thinking Flamecraft is the way I would go with that. But yeah, absolutely, you could do that.
There's so many options for the dragon game thing. That's certainly true. Certainly true.
So what would you pair with Foundations of Rome then?
Oh, so now we got to go Roman wine. Obviously, you got to go Italian, right? And I think you got to go big and you got to go bold because you're doing buildings, right? Like that's not light fare. You're gonna have to chisel some marble here. So I think I go with a big old Sangiovese.
Oh, nice.
Maybe even a Montepulciano if you want to go that way.
Yeah, I think Italy has like some wines, like a few.
I think they have some food as well.
Yeah, like a little bit, or its own food group in my household. How about Boop? Hold on, I already know the one for Boop. It's that wine from New Zealand that you said tastes like cat piss.
Yeah, that's the one to go. Yep.
That's where now do you have one that tastes like llama piss? Because we have Altiplano here.
Yeah, but you could absolutely go with any kind of Chilean wine.
I was just gonna say the Chilean,
right? And there are some cool, lesser known Chilean wines. Let me pull one up for you.
Yes, Andrew's gonna go hipster. I'm not gonna be the only hipster tonight. I love it.
Keep talking while I'm finding something.
Okay, so I'm just going to reference some stuff we talked about earlier because I'm looking at my notes. The Justin Cabaret needs to be with steak. We talked about a Metaxa 5-star if you're not going to swing the Ouzo. And then for my Ghostbusters pick, the Ghost vodka with a little bit of Midori for the color, and it'll help with the flavor a little.
I think so too. Yeah, you want to, because vodka's flavorless for the most part, so you want to have a little something in there.
Yeah,
All right, I would say let's go with a Tarantes from there, which has notes of like Meyer lemon, peach, roses, and citrus zest.
Ooh.
So I would go with like a Tarantes with that Altiplano. That'd be my call.
All right, how about an exit or unlock game?
Oh, so there's a bourbon that has a key attached to the label. What is that one?
That is Blade and Bow.
Yeah,
Oh,
Blade and
Mike.
Bow. That's my pairing for an exit unlock game. There we go.
Oh, he's gonna go get a bottle. I'll leave it
No,
up for
I
a
already
second.
cashed it, but I
Yeah, there
kept
you
the
go.
key.
Nice work, Mike. Nice work, sir.
Oh, also, Andrew, if you
Oh.
didn't know, Dragon's Milk also does make a bourbon now.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I have
Oh my
not yet
gosh.
tried it, so it's good to know it's good.
It's very good.
How about a Sherlock Holmes consulting detective? Like, do you have a wine or a spirit that
Now,
tastes
see
of heroin?
that one
And
I feel like you got to go something a little crazy. That was going to be a cocktail. It's got to be a classic cocktail.
I feel like it's
And
got to
I'm
be
thinking,
smoky.
yeah, I'm thinking that's like a gin cocktail, or maybe like a like it's got to have that coriander and got a little bit of like God, I can't think of the notes right now, but like yeah, I would go with like a classic gin cocktail, maybe like a sidecar or something
We
like
need
that.
a Victorian era.
Yeah, something like that, right?
All right, let's see. Meat and fruit in a stew. You mean like tomatoes? Yeah. How about Fleet, the dice game? So Fleet, I mean, I don't know. I go to rum. I go to a rum, but maybe that's not right.
I
I
had
don't think you can ever go bad with a rum and water, right? Like that makes sense to me. But I would probably go more Caribbean with that, or more southern facing. In the north, you want a little more brisk. You want a little more fortifying. So I'd probably lean closer to the whiskeys and bourbons with that. But we've kind of done a lot of that already.
Sure.
So I'm trying to feel like what would the fishermen off the coast of Newfoundland be drinking? That's probably where I'd want to go.
That's a good.
Probably a simple beer.
Okay, so Low, thank you for the compliment. It's all because Andrew's here. But what's the opinion on spicy pea in Indianapolis? I don't know what spicy pea is.
I know who this is. This is actually a kid that's messing with me.
Oh, okay.
And he's actually talking about Pascal Siakam being traded to the Pacers. That's
Okay.
who Spicy P is. So.
Okay, well, we know he's going to improve the team.
Yes.
So we can go yellow. Oh, wait, so Evan says yellowtail or coffee. Let's see.
Coffee's a good one. Those guys like don't sleep.
Let's see. What about sci-fi games?
Oh, you know what? You put a little bourbon in your coffee. That's how you do it, right? You get the warm beverage, and then you get a little Irish love in there or something like that. That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's true.
I like Bailey's in my coffee. There's also several flavors of Old Smoky Moonshine that are amazing in coffee. One of them in particular is their peanut butter whiskey and coffee.
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
okay, so like a month ago, I freaked out the Rossies because I told them I've never had pie like in the traditional sense, like an apple pie or a pumpkin pie or anything like that. So I have never also ever had coffee ever. I'm not Mormon or anything. I drink a ton of caffeine. I've never had coffee. So David, sci-fi games. I feel like we need a little bit of like dry ice or something to give us like a smoky look in our drinks.
Sure.
But I think we've got to like go neon, right? You got to go like bright colors with that. Maybe I'm that's my barbaric sensibilities, right? I think
I have a couple of these down. So for example, I would pair Star Wars Rebellion with Blue Milk.
Well,
okay.
I've had blue milk at the Galaxy's Edge at Disney World. It's fine.
Oh,
it's fine.
Lo, that is incorrect. I brought up Marvel Legendary earlier with a drink called Incredible Hulk. So, I that has been mentioned very early in the show. In addition to what the heck were we on? Oh, Stars. Star Realms. I would pair that with the old drink called Starry Night. You remember those? Been a little while?
Yeah.
Where you mix Goldschlager and Jaeger?
Oh my God, I do remember that. Okay. Now, this person are they in Korea? Where are they at?
She is located in China, but she is originally French.
Oh, yes. So do we have a good Asian French combination there, Andrew.
We do, but I don't want to get away from the space thing real quick because I have one last pairing and it plays into this. I want to do a pairing for apiary. So I feel like you got space bees. How about space-time mead and cider works? And specifically, Mike, if you pull up the screen with apiary on it.
Yes.
They have a interesting bottle of sparkling mead. So it's like a champagne, which I feel like you make it into space, you got to celebrate, called the Helion right there. I feel like you could pair all of the space-time mead, though, for all of space stuff. They've got all the different rocket ships and all the things you need for that. So that's always a pairing. Plus, I think mead is one of those things that doesn't taste of this earth. It tastes different. It doesn't taste the way you kind of expect it to taste. And it's always, they're always putting different flavors in there. You put lavender in there, you put in some honeysuckle, you put in a little elderflower, and it just creates a really cool combo. So that would be one of my pairings, apiary with Helios. But I think for all sci-fi games, I think you could take anything from space-time and it would work.
Nice. Oh, David said for Firefly, there was a real recipe for Mutter's milk. Very possible. No coffee. I know. Oh, Diana. Yeah, she was the one that was most upset about the pie thing. I know. Listen, I drink Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper, and now I've switched to like a sugar-free caffeinated seltzer because it's sugar-free and I'm getting older. My metabolism isn't what it used to be. So, I've got to, what about canvas? Okay. So we need an artist's.
Sure.
So what would Van Gogh, what did he imbibe?
Oh, well, hold on a second. So with apiary, I don't know if we still have Mr. Portland Gamecraft with us, but I do know that Rogue Ales is based in Portland.
Oh, okay.
I
Rogue
also
Dead guy,
know, they have a honey colt that I've tried that is fantastic. That is what I would pair with apiary.
Yeah, apiary, any honey mead, any kind of mead, right? Yeah.
Canvas. Wow.
I don't know where to John, I got your canvas. I'm just pulling it up. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pair this. I got you.
I love it. Let me just throw one out there. If you're going to go like Herminius Bosch or Salvador Dali, you need something that's going to make you hallucinate. So let's go like 1920s absinthe with that.
Yeah.
Not absinthe you buy now because that's not real. I'm talking about absinthe that you
got to pour it over the sugar. Yeah.
You got to put it over a sugar cube, and then do it.
Well, I had already on my list absinthe paired with Mask of the Red Death.
You know what's funny, Mike, is I was going to pair absinthe with Tricarion because I felt more of the right era.
It does feel a little more magical in there too. Like it's weird that you're pouring it over sugar and then it changes the color a little bit and there's some stuff that, I can see that.
Right.
All right, Mike, put it up there for me.
And John, I got your email. I just saw the notification for it, so I'm going to reach out to you, buddy. So thank you for that.
So this is Sine Villiards. It's Angelo's paintbrush from Sonoma County.
Look at this. This is so good. This is why we have Andrew on. This is amazing.
The wine starts with impressions of strawberry and plum, interwoven with notes of vanilla, spice, and a touch of toasty oak.
Andrew, I'm going to derail real quick because I had this question for you while we were talking about your game, and I forgot about it. And I asked this question of every designer that I've ever talked to.
Okay.
Are you mechanics or theme first?
That doesn't work that way. I feel like
that's what Martin Wallace told me. So please continue.
Inspiration hits in whatever way it does. But whenever I start with one or the other and it doesn't come from the right place, that inevitably fizzles out by the second playtest.
So how did Wine Cellar start?
Well, that one came from that thought process. If you're going to write what you know, right? So for me, it was design what I know. And then I looked at the landscape of games and saw how little existed for it. And I thought, what's the thing that I can speak about? What's the thing that I know a little bit about? What's the thing I can say? And so for me, it was there's this weird thing about wine that people know but don't know, and that's aging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wine changes and evolves just like a person does as they grow and get stronger and more interesting, or they start to die away. But it's one of those things where like people have no idea what wines age and what wines don't age. And here's a chance for me to not only showcase different wines across the world, but also give them a little taste profile of how things age, whether good or bad. You know, is it something I need to drink right away, or is it something I can wait 2 or 3 years, or 5 years, or 15 years, or 20 years, or 35 years, or even more than that? Like, this game that I created was a way for me to express that to people who would normally have a very hard time imagining how that works.
I love it. I love it. What an awesome answer. There's no wrong answer.
For that one, it was the theme, but it came from a place of weird knowledge that I have that most people don't have. Mm-hmm. But I've designed many, many other games where, like, I thought, I've never used this mechanic before. What would be interesting if I took that mechanic and I put it with this? But I almost always have to get the theme within the first playtest or two, because otherwise you're not creating the parts of the game that feed into the theme.
Well, otherwise it's an abstract game that you're pasting a theme on, right?
Yeah, and I can't work that way. It's not how I work. I lean into whatever theme it is. I may change themes midstream. I might play 2 or 3 times and be like, this theme is not working for this. But if I changed it to this, that would make it better. And now what do I need to put mechanically in place to make that theme make more sense? And then you move into things like that. And so I don't think there's a bad place to start, but I think if you're trying to do it a specific way, you will rarely find success.
I like it. Awesome. Great answer. I mean, there, again, no wrong answer. I love it. I just love asking designers about this because Martin Wallace kind of gave the same thing. He's like, I don't know. Sometimes I start with a theme. Sometimes I start with mechanics. Like, what mechanics make sense for this theme? Sometimes he's got a mechanic he wants to use. He starts making a game and then goes, oh, this theme makes sense for this. Perfect. Great.
Sometimes that mechanic you started with ends up getting pulled by the 7th or 8th playtest, and now it's something completely different. Like I said, my games grow the way they want to grow. They express themselves in the way they want to grow in whatever way they grow.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Games that get better with age, there are some really good classic games out there, and thankfully Restoration Games is the forefront of bringing those back. But like, I recently just picked up the new copy of Acquire. I cannot wait to play Acquire for the first time in like 30 years. I have not played Acquire since I was like 18 or 19, but that's a game that I really loved back then. I hope it holds up. One of my favorites I recently played at a convention a little bit a while ago was playing Survive, Escape from Atlantis for the first time.
Oh yeah, great game.
Oh my God, the take that in that game is some of my favorite take that. I don't like take that much, but when you put a sea monster on somebody else's boat, that's the best.
That's Engelstein, right? Didn't he design that?
I'm not sure who the original designer was, and I'm not sure who did the newer version. Probably. I never looked at the box, but I should have. I
think so, because I think I have Survived, but it's this. Maybe it's the space one. Is that the second one?
I like sea monsters, whales, and sharks more than I like aliens, but that's me.
No wrong answer. Again, right? I mean, oh, okay. Thank you, Wayne. I have never played Acquire. I've always heard so much about it. Here's the other thing that Restoration Games does very well, though, is they update their games very well.
Yes, absolutely. Like Thunder Road Vendetta isn't the same game anymore. And apparently it's spectacular. I've not played it yet, but it's on my list of ones to try.
It is, spoiler for our top 10 games new to us in 2023. It is on that list. I won't say where.
Sure.
But it's on that list. I enjoy the hell out of that game. Yeah. That is not a game for like alpha gamers that like to really meticulously plan every turn and every action. Not the game for you.
No, it's a chaos engine is what it is, right? So that's what it's all about.
Yes. Yes.
I haven't played Acquire either. I absolutely need to get that one played. It's just the type of game that's right up my alley.
Nice. So you're playing it right, is what I'm saying, Dan. Well done. If you're not hurting the opponent, you're not doing it right.
I love that.
So Mike, what are some of your favorite really old games you've played though that you played recently that you really love going back to? Then, like, what are some of your?
So the biggest one for me is Imperial. Matt Gertz Imperial. So this was a 2007 release published by Rio Grande, and Matt Gertz, of course, is known mostly for Concordia. But
Sure. Yeah.
Imperial is what it's a rondel action selection, and it has the appearance of being a war game because you are building up troops and you are moving them and you are trying to control territories. But ultimately, you are trying to profit off of this war. And so it becomes kind of realistic. But the way you do that is there becomes a taxation phase where you gain income based on how well your country is doing. But then there's a phase where you get to buy stock in the countries. And if you own the most stock of that country, you actually control that country. So that means you don't always control the same country throughout the game. And therefore, you're not always buying stock of the country you're controlling. You're actually foreshadowing and you're trying to figure out who's actually playing the best right now. I'm going to buy that country's stock.
Right.
And timely investing of countries that are doing well is how you win this game. It's elegant, it's genius. I don't know of any other game like it. I played it like 8 years ago, like 2 or 3 times, and I was like, okay, this is pretty good. Then I played it again this year, and I'm like, why was this game not on my radar so long ago? I just something clicked with me this year when I played Imperial. It's truly fantastic.
Yeah, Mike was talking about this game. I really want to play it. I'm kind of obsessed with it. It sounds super
All right,
cool.
Mike, I just gave you a pairing for Imperial. Here you go.
I just looked at it.
Ooh, nice. It's an 06 release, actually. And the original is getting really hard to find. So I picked up Imperial 2030, which does change a couple things. This is the one I need to go to. I've had some of their beers, but I have not made it up there. I'm getting your picture ready. Good one.
The double drama natrix Russian Imperial Stout. Yeah, absolutely. Nice. From Saugatuck Brewing. I really like what Saugatuck does. They're known for their lighter stuff, but I actually think that their barrel aged stuff is better than everything else they have.
Nice.
They've had the peanut butter one. They've had a double cherry one. They do a nice job there.
There's one they make that is fantastic. It is a Neapolitan milk stout.
Sure. Yeah.
Little bit of chocolate, little bit of strawberry, little bit of vanilla. Very, very good beer.
I like it a little thicker than that when I want to barrel age, but yes, I get it. All right. Russian Railroads. Yeah, that's another classic. That's a really good one. That's one most people actually don't know about. And I love that it got the newer version, and I cannot wait to get the all-inclusive version. They're going to print, I guess, the one that has the Russian, American, and German, or whatever it is. There's like 3 of them they're going to put in one box. So I'm holding on to my copy of Russian Railroads for now, but I will get the amalgamated version when I get a chance.
That is out now. Ultimate Railroads.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that one, I liked that game, but I played it a lot, so I ended up trading it away. The German Railroad expansion really adds a ton of replayability to that one.
Oh, good.
And I like how that game has combos, but you really kind of got to build up to those combos. Yeah. And then when you hit them, it's like you feel like you're doing like 4 or 5 actions on one turn. It's really, really good.
What about you, Tim? What's a classic game that you bring to the table that still shows up?
I mean, classic is like
5 years ago for you?
A subjective term.
Sure.
I mean, I've been in the hobby as we talk about it now for God, I guess since about 2010, 2011.
Okay. So your Ecto cooler is older than your hobby. I got it.
Right,
okay.
right. But like the games, okay. So let's go to when I really got into the hobby. Really, when the seeds were planted, when I first played Hero Quest in the early 90s.
Sure.
Not saying it hits the table now, but what would you pair with a Hero Quest? A fantasy dungeon crawl. think like the most generic D&D.
Wow.
Interesting. When I think of HeroQuest, though, I don't think of. I mean, it has all the tropes. Don't get me wrong; it has all the things. But I feel like that game specifically is about the terrain. Like,
Okay.
it's got monsters in it, but the monsters are almost secondary to the doorways and the passageways and the stone steps and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm going to go with a stone IPA on that one. I feel like I'm going to go with the Northwest a little bit and do a little stone brewery up there. And maybe Evan will give me a little shout out if he's still on.
I see what you did there. I like it. I like the twist on that, but yet it still makes
a little
sense.
Gargoyle action on the label. Yeah.
Very good pick. Because when I got into the hobby as we know it, right, the first games I played were like Ticket to the Ride, DC Deck Building, Carcassonne, Catan, things like that. Like pretty generic. Dominion, you know. But like older games, how about you give a pairing for a game that Mike and I both love that is a little older? Old by today's standards, but I'll just say a little older. And what would you pair with Concordia, which is a top 5 game for both Mike and I, right, Mike? That's still in your top 5?
Number 2. No, number 1 this year.
Oh, was it your number 1 this year?
Concord Grape Wine, right? I mean, isn't that the easy answer? That's what I already had down.
You may have stolen a little of my thunder there, Mike. Well done. So yeah, Concordia might be the greatest ugly game of all time.
It's my number 2. It's my number 2 favorite game of all time.
I actually don't understand how somebody somewhere didn't literally buy the rights just so they could put a different cover on it and sell 1 million copies. Like,
seriously.
This feels like, the Castles of Burgundy New Edition all over again. Like, really and truly, like, when they tried to fix Castles of Burgundy and they botched it by making it almost as bad as the original. And then Awakened Realms took it and said, nope, this is how you sell 2 billion copies. Like, this is how you do it.
Hold my beer is what Awakened Realms said.
So that absolutely is how it needs to be. And so I feel like this isn't so much about what you're drinking. It's about how much you're drinking to make her look good. This is the cover you need beer goggles for. Absolutely. Just drink the 6-pack as fast as possible and then hope you don't drop your cards. That's what you pair with this one.
I love it. It's I honestly consider it the perfect game. It does everything so well. Every action matters. Every action interacts with a different action. It was one of those games where just like, after 3 turns, I'm like, this is going to be one of my favorite games ever. Just one of those for me. Love that.
It was one of those games where you play it like the first time playing it, and I'm like, I love this game. I haven't even finished playing it. I played like 3 turns.
What I said?
This is one of my favorite games. Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm reinforcing your point, Mike. You're 100% correct.
I have
only played that game twice, and I refuse to own it based on the ugliness of the box. I am waiting for the new version that is not ugly so that I will spend my money on it, because I really want that to happen. I want somebody like Awakened Realms to pick that up and make a pretty version, and then I will give my money to them.
Only tricky thing is whether Rio Grande is going to stop. Like, I mean, it's still in circulation. The weird thing to me is how the first box cover was pretty bad, and then they updated it, and it really wasn't that much better.
They didn't fix it.
No, and they still give you no indication really of what kind of game you're actually playing.
Can I get a Vincent Dutray? Can I get a Vincent Dutray version?
Please.
Yes.
Please. Yeah. 12 plays. I give it a 10. I honestly think it's a perfect game.
That map needs updating too. That could be a much better looking map.
They actually just released a new one, but all the art is exactly the same. It's just different locations.
That's a failure. Stuff. There's no reason to reprint this as it currently is. They should absolutely be developing new art for it, and they could charge even an extra $20 on it for the new art, and they would make their money back trifold.
Oh, hold on. Oh. Yeah, this is the part of the box cover for one of the greatest games ever made, but you wouldn't be able to tell.
Be nice. I got an ex-girlfriend that looks like that. Like, be nice to
her. Yeah, it's rough looking, man. It's such a good game, though. I got another old one. Here's an old one. This will tell you how much I love my auction games. This originally came out in 1992.
Okay.
It is Reiner Knizia's classic Modern Art.
Oh, sure.
Oh, well,
yeah.
I love Modern Art. Buy low, sell high. I love that in games. That just works for me.
I'm assuming you're a fan of For Sale too, then, because that's
oh my god, I love For Sale.
That's the classic for that.
Yeah, For Sale's great. Yeah, For Sale's an old one.
I actually
too.
like playing For Sale on Board Game Arena right now because I can play asynchronously, and
nice.
I don't actually have to sit down. I can literally just every night when I go to the bed, I can just pull it up and be like, "Yeah, I'll take my turn." There you go. I'll wake up in the morning, take another turn.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's the great thing about Board Game Arena.
97 for Sale. Man, I have 42 plays of that game. No surprise. John, I've had every time I bring up how much I love Knizia bidding games, everybody mentions High Society. I still haven't even played that yet. Ugh. I just need to buy that one. I feel like
if Tim shaved off the little goatee and wore a wig, he might look like the girl in Concordia.
That's actually a good point.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I see that now, especially after we talked about how ugly it is. But
a little drag action, and that's a perfect.
I did have a friend that I knew in high school, and I didn't know how to take it, but she told me I had the profile of a Roman penny, and she wasn't wrong. So you take what you can get.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I had a girlfriend that had dark red hair that was very curly. Looked more like the one Mike showed than this one, which I believe this is the old box cover, and Mike showed the updated box cover, I think.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how they just didn't revamp the whole thing and start from scratch.
I know. Seriously, or re-theme it. I mean, it's literally trading in the Mediterranean, the game, which like everybody's done now. Do something with it. It's too good for people to be overlooking. Okay, so we've been going for 2.5 hours, and Tim has not mentioned Taverns of Tiefenthal.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite games.
I actually saw one of your previous shows when you talked about this, and I was like, I still have not tried this game. So can we please play it when we hang out next? Because I would love to try that one.
100%. One of my all-time favorite games. One of my all-time favorite. Wolfgang Warsch. So you need a German, Lowenbrau maybe, and then some pub food with it.
Oh, no, I'm having some Oktoberfest, thank you.
Yes, there you go.
Personally, I'll be getting one from Great Lakes Brewing Company, which is actually in Cleveland, Ohio, but it's the best Oktoberfest I've ever had.
Well, it's still a Great Lake right there, so you're good.
There you go.
So when I think of Oktoberfest, I also think of like pumpkin beers a little bit, even though they're very different. And I would go with the Jolly Pumpkin with that. I think that'd be really great. Got the fall flavors that's where I think I would go with that one. But I understand the German accent or the German connection.
Yeah. Also, when I think Oktoberfest, I think of the movie Strange Brew. So then I've got to go with like a Labatt, or something like that.
Oh, you hoser.
You hoser. What were you going to say, Mike? I'm sorry.
I don't remember. How about, can we just pair Wonderland's War with mustard?
Mustard?
Can we do that?
Yeah, and some tea. How about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shadows of the Past, and you are going to pair that with pizza with weird toppings, whatever your craziest combination, because the Ninja Turtles were all about like really weird stuff on their pizzas. And then I just said cherry Coke. Because it's like
no, it's got to be Nuka-Cola. It's got to be Nuka-Cola. Come on, man,
Andrew. Yes. I tried to go with something you could actually get, but yes, you are correct. It does actually have to be Nuka-Cola.
You can still get Nuka-Cola, Tim. You can buy it from people that have jacked the price up on eBay. Because they actually did sell Nuka-Cola at Target.
I was going to say they did. Yes,
I remember that, but yes. Yeah, I mean, it really. What does it taste like? RC? I mean, it's not good. It's.
I'm not sure. It was Jones Soda. There was a Nuka Cola, and then they even had a Quantum Soda. So they covered their bases with those.
All right, Mike, I got your Wonderland's War. Put it up.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yes, I love it. I just happen to love this theme, so it does a lot for me in this game. That's great.
There you go.
That is
And
awesome.
it's a blonde, so Tim might actually like it.
And Alice happens to be blonde in most
That's
versions I've
true.
seen her in. So there you go.
Makes sense.
Wow,
Makes
that's
sense.
cool. I got to try this one now. I got to figure out where this is. Wheatwood Ales.
I will tell you in a moment. I'm on their website.
Nice.
Do.
It's a good one.
Well, it was brewed in Cheshire, wherever that is. I mean, assuming it's not in England, but maybe it is.
Okay, a couple real fast location-based pairings, and then I'm done with my pairings. I mean, yeah, those are the easy ones. Why not pair Jaipur and Rajas of the Ganges with butter chicken and naan?
Sure, that works.
I don't know what like Indian drinks are like. That I'm not really sure of. Oh, and I would pair Libertalia with Mount Gay rum. That one's too easy. Pirates and rum. I know.
Yeah.
And it was said earlier, but I mean, I would pair Downfall of Pompeii with chocolate lava cake personally.
All right, we're going to Chili's now, but yeah, I got you. That's fair.
I'm here for it. That's great. That is great. So would you then do deal with the devil with devil's food cake then?
Sure, you know what?
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well have something good while you're playing a game that's not great. Sorry.
I'm surprised since the theme is so thick and scout, Tim. I'm surprised you didn't pair that with like cotton candy or something.
Yeah, because
Dripping with theme.
Well, I would pair scout with water because that's about as heavy as the theme is there.
Oh man, you're just hating on it. That's fine. That's
no,
cool.
Scout's a great game. I just am
Love the
annoyed
game.
that they even tried to put a theme on it because the
Yeah, I
theme
mean,
is
just consider it abstract and let it go. It's
exactly
fine. No big
the
deal.
theme is arbitrary.
So I went and found out where Wheatwood Ales is southeast of Liverpool. So there's where you would get that one.
Nice.
I'm
So
not sure
next-
it's importable to our country, but
Next time you're there, Mike, scoop it up.
I got to go across the pond.
I figure you're due to be going to UK Games Expo at some point anyway, right?
Oh my God. If only we could get that
and
big.
Essen. And Essen. Dream come true. Got to make it happen. All right. And
Andrew,
let's get a...
what would you pair with Lost Ruins of Arnak?
Okay, so you've got a fantasy place, right? Like, and you're hacking through the jungle. So I feel like you either got to go fully tropical, so something with some stone fruits or something like that. You can go beer with it or not. But I think I would probably go with some fancier cocktail. Like, I think I would probably go a little heavier with, like, I think a gin, like a juniper and some like exotic dragon fruit or something like that in there is the way I would go. But I feel like you can pair so much with that. It doesn't have to go that way only. But I think that's the way I would do it because I imagine that all those places have exotic fruits we've never heard before, and I think gin and juice of any kind is pretty much a good pairing.
Nice.
So whatever exotic fruit you can find, put into a juice, and then put a little gin in there.
Everything comes back to Snoop Dogg. And put it back in gin and juice. Mike, what was your other one?
Bora Bora, since Tim gets tired of me talking about that game, but it's another Feld gem. Still my favorite designer.
I actually don't know Bora Bora.
That's a very older... that is an older dice placement game that is now being reprinted as Cuzco from Queen.
They're doing the changing of location names thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
So you need a
are.
Polynesian spirit
Yeah.
with
Pina colada. Let's just go with the
That would
coconut.
work. I would say
Yeah.
you go with any kind of like tiki drink. I think
Mhm.
absolutely that's the way that go. In fact, if it's flaming, it's better. I feel like
Oh.
that one needs a little
Ooh.
cinnamon sprinkle over the top and a little light the fire kind of thing going on.
I'm with you. I'm with you. A little bit of spiciness because that game can be mean. That is a
Okay.
dice placement game where you can't. If somebody has placed a die, you can't then place a die that's higher. So literally, if you drop a 1 down, sorry. Now there's like god cards that you can break those rules, but it can be very mean. You can really not get what you're looking to get. It's fun though. It's really good. Do I have any other fun ones at the end here? How about Chinatown and Crab Rangoon? Is that too easy?
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Mhm.
All right, that's all I got. I'll stop there.
Nah.
I mean, that
That's
sounded good. How about Lords of Vegas? That's a game that Mike and I both love. What
All
would
right, so
you
I
pair
feel
with-
like that one, it's just got to be either a Manhattan, like the classic 50s drink, or you're going to have to go like a vodka martini, like a Belvedere kind of thing. You got to just drop
Okay.
in there. Like, I feel like if you're not walking around and it's half in your hand and you're pulling a slot, you're doing it wrong. Like
you got to do a little
Nice.
Dean Martini kind of thing with
right.
it.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you-
With
yeah,
the with
okay.
the bow tie hanging down on one side. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the way it's got to go.
I'm
All right.
with it. All right, let's go opposite. What game would you pair with an old fashioned?
Ooh, okay. So I could go several different ways on this one, but I'll let you guys answer while I look this up real quick. I gotta look this up.
I didn't immediately have an answer. I just like bourbon. I like old fashions.
I mean, you could go like Mike. You could do like bootleggers. You could pick like The Godfather, Corleone's Empire, right? You could do anything that kind of gives you those vibes. I think with Godfather, well, I don't know. That's not 20s enough. But like like because bootleggers would also be more like a 20s style game. So you need more of like a moonshiny, whiskey kind of thing. But Andrew, did you find what you were looking for?
Not yet. I'm
Not
pulling
yet.
it up.
Mike, what would you play with an old fashioned?
I'm actually struggling still. I'm sort of just flipping through stuff I've played actually.
Oh, what about like detective LA stories? You know what I mean? Like something noir-ish, right? So Mob, The Big Apple, you could do.
Yeah, or New York 1901.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. Wayne's coming through for us.
Mm-hmm.
Tammany Hall. I mean, that's too old probably, but you could still do a old fashioned or a Manhattan with that. Yeah. All I can think of is like smoky back rooms when I think of old fashions,
Sure.
And
this one's tough. I'm really struggling on this one. That's I don't know. It's a really good drink. I like them a lot, and I'm just gonna say it, and maybe somebody will come up with something.
Man, old fashions are just too orangey for me. I don't know. I just
You're not supposed to put your dick in it.
well, fair. That's what I was doing wrong. What
Oh
if it's
my
your
Lord.
friend's dick? Is that
How
messing
about
up?
Tim was supposed to get us canceled
I
tonight?
know.
Not our guest.
Usually it's me. Usually it's me. I mean, I am the one pairing chainsaw and chili. But no. Okay,
I got it.
Oh, you got it. Let's hear it.
Yeah. How about Raccoon Tycoon?
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
It just gives me that sort of industrial revolution vibe of 1800s, early 1900s.
Sure.
I get that vibe from Raccoon Tycoon. So there we go.
I don't know if old fashions were big in England, but you could do like Letters from Whitechapel with an old
Sure.
fashioned. That might be too Victorian era versus what we're going for, but I'm just looking around at my game collection for inspiration. That's the nice thing about being surrounded by board games right now is I can look and kind of cheat. Like, oh yeah.
I
No,
just
that's a
flipped
good
through
one.
my BG stats. That's my cheat.
There's a game I'm trying to find that I'm struggling mighty with. Let me just describe it. It's basically an old Victorian game about courtship and marriage, but it's very much a roll and write, and it's got one of those funky like trace paths, and it's got people's pictures on it and stuff like that. Man, I'm struggling to find it, but I was thinking like this feels like an old fashioned feels like the kind of game where you're playing, but you're not really playing. The game is playing you. Like, not like shoots and ladders, like basic kind of thing, but a little more fancy, a little more parlor, a little more like I'm leaning back, not leaning forward. I have the drink in my hand. I'm kind of at a cocked angle, and I might just toss the dice and let them land, and then you tell me what happens. That's what I feel like with an old fashioned.
What am I filling out here? What am I filling out here?
Right. Yeah.
Welcome to. Nothing personal, maybe. Again, mob themed game.
Yeah.
But
I can see that. I'm good with that.
You know, what's funny is I was looking around my games and I saw Narcos. I'm like, what do you pair with Narcos other than cocaine?
Oh no, that's mezcal. You got to go mezcal.
Oh, mezcal. Okay.
You got to have smoky. You got to have tequila. You got to go mezcal, and either have it straight up or you put a little lime on the end of it or something like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's definitely a mezcal drink.
Mm-hmm. Totally fair.
All right. What about like a dystopian future type of game?
Ooh.
In the future, have we gotten to the point where like everything is just a seltzer? We're just dumbing everything down into seltzers in the future. That's what we're doing. Because there are no resources anymore.
The thing about seltzers, though, is that they don't actually last. Like, so I feel like it's got to go the opposite way. It's got to be like the kind of drink that a cockroach or a Twinkie can hold up to, right? Like, I feel like this has got to be the kind of thing that gets stuck into a barrel or a jar like pickle juice. It just ages and ages and ages and gets better. So I think I'm going to have to go with one of the classic wines of all time, and that is a Burgundy wine. Like, really and truly, that thing can age 70, 100, 150 years and probably still be good as long as it was aged right. So I'm going to go with the most ageable wine that I can think of. I'm going to go with that.
Nice.
Okay, so, would you also pair that then with cockroach poker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, talk about a game that needs a retheme. That absolutely needs a new theme.
I just bought the reprint and played it for the first time a few weeks ago, and what a blast that game is. I mean, it could be any theme.
Yeah, I've heard good things, but the fact that it's cockroach, I'm not interested. Thanks anyway. I will hold out. That's fine.
Totally fair. Totally fair.
All right, Tim, don't give us the obvious. Tell us what you would pair with your favorite 30-second game, Happy Salmon.
Oh, God. Okay, so Happy Salmon, it has to be a Red Bull and vodka because I'm going to need a lot of energy when I play Happy Salmon. So not the obvious choice, right? But that game gets me amped up. I'm ready to go. Bam. Maybe do a Jaeger and Red Bull. You know, again, you pound it, you get that rush. But Red Bull and vodka is easier, less harmful, and yeah. Red Bull and vodka. Let's go.
All right. So you want to basically have a EKG monitor in hand when you're drinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem is I'm the kind of person that when I imbibe in alcoholic beverages, it does two things to me in this order. It gets me very energetic and hyper, but the second I stop moving, I'm out.
Wow.
Just like a light. So just about any alcohol, it does that to me. I'm like, and I can go as long as I keep moving. When I stop moving, lights out, baby. And I'm done. And I mean, now you can wake me back up, Energizer buddy, like, let's go again. But,
Okay.
but yeah, that's generally how I go.
People are fascinating with the way their personal body chemistries differ. Like that's just so fascinating to me.
My body converts it to adrenaline and sugar, immediately. And, yeah, I'm a very happy, drunk. I don't really drink to get drunk anymore. That was like a thing that I did 20 years ago.
Sure.
Now it's sort of like, hey, I like to have a few cocktails, get loose, and like, let's hang out. But I still like to be able to drive when I'm done. I don't want to be so knackered that I can't, function.
Right. I totally agree. It's interesting though. There's some alcohols that do make me cranky. Like very specifically, Jack Daniels tweaks my anger buttons. Like where it makes me sharper, a little not pleasant. Like I learned this, too bad, early. I didn't learn early enough. So most of my college was drinking Jack Daniels and being grumpy, which is not the way you want to meet people when you're single and stuff like that. But I didn't know that it did that to my body chemistry. So once I found Woodford Reserve and was like, wait, I'm actually not angry right now. What is going on? Like this is so much better. Like, yeah, it's kind of crazy that certain alcohols though do trigger my anger rather than my cool calmness.
I wonder if that's why I naturally stopped drinking Yukon Jack, because I did get a little riled up while drinking some Yukon Jack or Southern Comfort. That did make me a little more feisty than any other alcohol.
I'm a big believer that certain things trigger certain people, whether it be the ingredients in it or a flavor profile or whatever it is, or even just past trauma. Like there are things that like, different effects on different people. I think I'm a big believer of that. Yeah.
No, Bob is getting arrested on tequila. So.
It's all consensual with Bob. Trust me, it's all consensual.
Speaking of getting arrested and getting canceled, let me just go ahead and throw this one out there because it's just too obvious. Can we go ahead and pair Good Cop, Bad Cop with apple fritters and donuts? Can we do that?
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and a cup of coffee.
Yes.
And a cup of coffee. Strong coffee with a little bit of Bailey's in there, right?
So what am I pairing with Monopoly? I think it's a campfire. I think that's what I'm pairing with Monopoly.
Pure hatred. Well, I think actually, Andrew, you're probably pairing a Jack Daniels because you want to be mean as hell and cranky while you're doing it.
No, I wanna roast marshmallows with it. I want to use it for some reason. Like I want to find a way. I still believe there's something out there for people. If you want to be a game designer and you want to know a place to start, make Monopoly not suck. It's not only an almost impossible task, but it's a very interesting place to hone your thought process in which way you want to make that game. And it's a blank canvas for the most part. I mean, it's a couple of cards, some fake money, and a couple of houses. There's not much to it, but you can do some cool things with it. I've seen some designers take that as a challenge and make things that are borderline entertaining. It's still a tall task, but I would rather play those people's versions than the original Monopoly.
So it's funny you say this because we had Mike and I did a list of like worst games we own or something like that, right?
Sure.
And we talked about like games that we own, they're bad. Objectively, they're bad, but either we own them for one reason or another.
Sure.
And Giuliano challenged us. He's like, well, take that bad game and how would you improve it? I mean, that's exactly what so that is another person, another designer, another developer throwing that out there. So, I mean, and that was something that had never occurred to, I don't think Mike either, that it occurred to either of us as sort of like an interesting approach to that, to that whole thing. So that's pretty cool to hear somebody else say that as well. So
I'll do a spicy hot take here for you real quick. So I believe that if Scrabble was built today, it wouldn't be accepted as it is. They would put development on it to increase the point scores of larger words in order to open the board up. I actually think that the way strategic players of Scrabble play ruin the game because they tighten the board so tightly, it forces players to place big words, which then puts them at risk. So I feel like the designers would now, if they submitted this game and let's just say Hasbro said, yes, we like this game, but we're going to double all the scores for the bigger words. I think that's how that would go. And I realize people out there who love Scrabble as it is, and that's fine. You have it. Nobody's changing it for me anyway, so it's yours. But I feel like there are certain things that were broken in time that we didn't know were broken, so we appreciated them for what they were. And as we grow and evolve, we have more sophisticated tools that we can use as designers and as players. I'm a huge fan of house rules. Like, if you can find a way to make any game in the world more fun for you and your family or you and your friends, do that. You already spent your money. Now make the game as fun as you want to make it. Another house rule thing that I love this, by the way, I do this just for me and my family, but when I teach it, when I play Wingspan, I play with 2 bird trays. So it's not just the 3 birds that are there. I put 3 more up there because I believe that the fun in that game is finding the combos. And the faster you can get more birds that work together, the more fun you're going to have playing that game.
I like it. Hell yeah.
I've heard of some people playing with a draft up front. So you have more agency in the cards that you start with. It's funny you mentioned that, but the worst game that I own is Oregon Trail, the card game.
Oh man.
And I actually did house rule the mess out of that game to get it to where we could actually finish the game, like beat it,
play it.
Because in its existing state, you can't beat it. It's nearly impossible.
So they replicated the computer game. That makes sense.
They did replicate the computer game very well.
I'm old enough to have played that in school. Like, I actually played that game
on an Apple IIe. And
I died of dysentery. Yes, I did.
Yes, that's a card in the games. But nostalgia, that's great. But what sucks as a board game player is when you draw a card and you're instantly done playing.
Yeah.
There's a dysentery card. There's a snakebite card. There's a cholera card. This whole game is trying to kill you. And there's a random chance you'll draw that card that makes you done playing. I house ruled that one like crazy to make it somewhat enjoyable.
And I would say that you made that game better. Now, whether you can pass that information on to other gamers and they can take it on, that's another thing entirely. But I feel like you made that game worthy of keeping and playing. So good job on you.
I tried.
Yeah, that is a fate that
happen. It's a deck of cards trying to kill you. It's gonna happen.
And
it's so broken.
If there was a little bit more dynamic sort of feel to it, where I don't know, you feel like you had a little more agency in it, it may not feel as bad.
I mean, I feel like the game was originally a learning tool, right? But it was also saying you can prepare all you want. It's going to come down to whether you get lucky and you don't get the thing. But I feel like in a game that I want to play, if I don't have some agency or some risk mitigation, then the game is playing me. And once again, I'm back in Victorian England, laying back with my old fashioned, tossing dice at a board.
Yeah. Yeah. Why isn't your game roll and move? Yeah, I get it.
Hey, I mean, this game has cards that say you fjord the river if you roll a 4 or higher. It doesn't tell you what happens if you roll under a 4. It doesn't tell
That's
you.
What that is. Yeah.
Just assume.
They don't tell you, though. You just got to guess. And if you check the rule book, it says, well, refer to the card. Well, if the card doesn't say, then yeah.
Guess what, Mike? You're still alive.
And that's why I believe my games are all brilliant, because they're better than that.
Your unpublished games are way better than this mass market.
All of my prototypes are more functional than that.
Yes.
So, I guarantee it.
High bar. High bar. Oh, crap. This has been awesome. This has really been awesome. I love this. Andrew, you got to come on again. We don't need to wait until your next game gets announced. You need to come on and hang out with us again. This is...
Well, I'm hoping to have 2 more announced later this year. So we can do that. That's fine. I come back and see you, whatever not. But we're going to make a time to hang out at Origins or Gen Con or something. You guys aren't going to Tantrum Con, I don't think, right?
No, I won't be there. I won't be there. We had a great time playing Processing with you. We played something else at Origins last year, and I forget what it was.
No, we played Processing. We played the Snarl game or the Bite game or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, we played Growl. You played Growl with us. Yeah, I love Growl. I think that's a really fun social deduction game. Which now, if people want to buy that, it has actually been rethemed and reprinted as Stranger Things Attack of the Mind Flayer.
Sure, yeah.
Same game. More accessible theme for most people. But I've got my copy of Growl. I love it. I'll never get rid of it. I also have a copy of Stranger Things Attack of the Mind Flayer because I like Joey Vigor, the guy who designed it. Sure. I will happily have both. No, man, this has been awesome. I'm really excited about your game. Wine Cellar sounds so cool.
We got to get you back. Right.
I cannot wait to share it with everybody in the world. Like, really and truly, that's where the joy comes from me is not in the thing that I create. It's the thing that I get to see other people enjoy. So
yeah,
cannot wait to share it. And of course, I have to mention, although we only briefly mentioned earlier, please check out the Tabletop Submarine podcast. We have all new guests lined up for this year. We have some really cool ones already lined up, and even ones that are planned to be released. Some people you've not heard from before and you should know are going to be coming up fairly soon. So good stuff.
What were you going to say, Mike? Mike, you're about to say something.
Right before your game comes out. That's when we got to get you back.
Okay.
Right when that Kickstarter goes live. Well, really, anytime's good, but that just seems like a good time. Anytime's good. We're not limited here, but
not
it
at
seems
all.
like a good one. Here, I will. I'll drop this link here. Also, we got to talk about one of our Tim and I's other favorite subjects, real quick.
Oh yes, Mike, you didn't bring this up yet, so we got to talk about this real quick.
No, I did briefly in the pre-production meeting, if you will. Andrew is a Lions fan.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you to the gods who decided that my team should suck one less week. I deeply appreciate the first playoff victory in not my lifetime, because I remember 1991 very vividly. So that was the last time, but this feels like the best team I've ever seen. And I remember the Barry Sanders years very, very well. I mean, I remember Herman Moore and Benny Blades and Johnny Morton and Chris Spielman, and I could list off half the roster. So I am a longtime suffering Detroit Lions fan who finally is not suffering. This is kind of spectacular. And there are no bandwagon Detroit fans. They don't exist. So
as a Bears fan, I have been pulling for the Lions this whole year because my team's been garbage and you guys have been inspired, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
I can't believe you let us have David Montgomery, and I'm so thankful.
Okay. I'm mad about that. But thank God he didn't go to the Packers. I do think
you let him go. You said go test free agency. I don't know what is wrong with your. Well, I do know what's wrong with your franchise. It's the ownership. But yes.
Yeah, second to the Cowboys, we have the worst owners in the NFL. The Cowboys are the worst.
Here's the thing.
Maybe now the Falcons or the Panthers might be worse too, but
the Panthers are now the worst. They've taken the thing. But the Lions, for the longest time, the problem was ownership. It was William Clay Ford that owned the team. And when he passed, it handed down to Martha Ford, his wife, who had no idea what she was doing, so she just let everything run the way it was. But here's the coolest part. When she decided she got tired of the fans criticizing her because she owned the team, she handed out to her daughter, Sheila Hamp. And Sheila was a football fan from birth. to the point where she actually asked Paul Tagliabue early on in her young adult life, what can I do in football? And Paul Tagliabue said, nothing. There's nothing you can do. So all she did was hang out in meetings and attend things and learn and pay attention to and ask questions. So she gathered all this knowledge because she wasn't allowed to be a professional. She wasn't allowed to be a part of the franchise. And she used that knowledge to hire the people who are smarter than the people who were currently in the building. And that is the Brad Holmes. That is the Chris Spielman. That is all the people who are now running my franchise and have turned it around from a dumpster fire into something that's worthy of watching. And it's a work in progress, and I don't think we're at the pinnacle yet, but this is a fun team to watch, and it's built the way Detroit should be built. Detroit is not a pretty city. It's not a flashy city. It's not a throw for 400 yards and look great doing it. It's not a wide receiver place. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown because he plays wide receiver the way we would have wide receivers.
He's like, gritty, man.
Gritty and tight and tough and juke moves, but not like flash juke moves. Like no, you're going to look stupid because you took a bad angle on me moves. Like that's the kind of wide receiver that this team needs and built around. And he's the guy with the chip on his shoulder who remembers every single player who was drafted in front of him. And it's like, those guys will never beat me into the Hall of Fame. That's how he perceives the whole world. Yeah. And my franchise has now started to reflect the thought process behind all these Detroiters who are loyal to the bone and long-suffering. And they love Detroit, but they love Detroit because it's not flashy. They love it because it's blue-collar. They love it because it's dirty and gritty and tough. And they love Dan Campbell because he wanted to be there. It wasn't some guy taking a paycheck that wanted to be one of 32 head coaches.
No.
Dan Campbell actually played for the franchise and said,
Your coach is a badass. I love that dude. I do. I'm envious.
I remember when I first heard that biting kneecaps quote. I had heard that. I went back and watched that whole press conference when he was first hired. And like I had like maybe vaguely heard the name Dan Campbell back in the day, but he wasn't really a big name or anything. And then, I'm like listening to this guy. I'm like, holy cow. If there is anybody that embodies what Detroit and Detroit football should be about, it is this guy. I was immediately convinced, like, if there is a guy that can turn this team around, this is the guy. I was just convinced from the onset. It took him a couple years, but he started with nothing. I mean,
well, I think the real architect this is not only Sheila Hamp Ford, but also Brad Holmes is the genius. He really, really is. They went and found the top scout at the best scouting football team in the NFL, which is the Rams at the time. They were just hitting on every single draft pick. And they said, who's the most talented guy in your franchise? And they basically said, let's interview him. And of course, he obviously passed the flying colors and got hired. And he has been doing things his way in such an amazing way. This is the first time as a fan of the NFL and as a fan of a franchise that I feel like my GM knows more than I do.
Nice.
I don't like the pick, but I can't question it because he obviously knows something I don't.
Well, the other thing is that you have an organization now that gives him the autonomy to make those choices. I say this as a Bears fan. I have nothing against Virginia McCaskey, but I cannot wait until she's not in charge of the team or her idiot son. I just need them to not have anything to do with actually running the organization.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I just remember for years and years and years of watching. I've never hated the Lions. As a Bears fan, I've never hated the Lions, and it's because it's like, no, again, as a Cubs fan also.
We've never been a threat.
Exactly. It's always been the Packers. It's the Packers and sometimes the Vikings, like every couple of years.
They're a threat. So we've always been a team that actually doesn't have rivalries.
Right.
We had one rivalry a little bit with the Packers in the 90s because we were good then and they were good then and we were trading blows back and forth. There was one year where we played them the final week of the season and then we played them the first week in the playoffs. We beat them the final week of the regular season and we lost the first game of the playoffs. That's kind of how that goes. But that's as close to a rivalry period as I've ever had as a Lions fan. No other team has ever found us to be a threat.
I mean, come on, with quarterbacks like Charlie Batch and, through the ages. I mean, what are you going to do? No, it's exciting. I'm really happy.
Talking poorly about Joey Harrington.
God, out of Oregon.
Oh man, he played some mean piano. He just
couldn't play football.
couldn't stare down a pass rush is what it was. He could throw all day with nobody coming at him.
Yeah, as long as nobody's no pressure. No, I'm really excited for the Lions. I am worried that you're going to run into the buzzsaw that it's the 49ers this year.
Oh God, yeah. No,
I think if 49ers
I have no illusions. I think we are at least another year away, but we are ahead of schedule as far as I'm concerned. And if we keep drafting the way we're drafting, we'll be there in 2 years. I feel like we really will find a way to overcome things. But this is all gravy. This is all playing with house money. Dude, we expected a playoff berth. We did not expect a playoff victory.
But again, though, like you couldn't write. This is like a movie. This is a movie where it's like, hey, we traded away Matt Stafford, our franchise quarterback, for 100 years, the guy that everybody loved in the numbers, right? Everything says Stafford should be great. He could never win a playoff game. You ship him off to LA. He immediately wins the Super Bowl. You're like, what? And then now you guys face him in the playoffs with Jared Goff, the cast off.
Yeah. And I was sweating bullets that game, and I adore Matthew Stafford. I think he is one of the all-time greats as far as the quarterback goes.
He handled himself impeccably.
If Dan Marino played for the Arizona Cardinals in the years that he was there, he would have been Matthew Stafford.
Right.
Like, really and truly. A huge cannon of a gun, nobody to throw it to, did the best he could with what he had. He wasn't done right until he asked to leave. And I don't blame him for asking to leave because it was another rebuilding year when he did. But the thing is, if you don't have a supporting – football is one of the few sports where it actually matters all the guys that are on the field at the time.
It is
you can have an NBA franchise where 4 guys are good and 1 guy sucks and it doesn't matter. You can even play soccer with 3 guys that suck. And if your 3 or 4 guys are transcendent, you can win easily.
Yeah.
In football, you have a couple of bad players, and those are your Achilles heel, and they dictate how far you go.
I mean,
and not only the depth of the roster, football is the main sport where coaching has a bigger impact than any other sport by far, and it's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
You can have all the talent in the world on your offense, but if you don't have a good offensive coordinator, you're toast.
Little known fact, Detroit was the place that coaches went to never coach again. If you took a Detroit Lions job, you had it for 3-4 years or whatever it was because the organization was loyal to whatever coach they hired. But we have a history of coaches never coaching again in the NFL after leaving our franchise.
Yeah, and why did they just give up on Caldwell? I
believe there were internal political struggles going on. It had nothing to do with what was going on the field, and I feel like Caldwell didn't play the game. He said, my wins and losses will speak for themselves, and you can deal with it.
Right.
And the upper management said, no, I don't think we will.
Caldwell was a ball coach and not a politician. Yeah. Yeah.
Because not only did we take a step back with the coach, we went with arguably the worst head coach in the history of the NFL, who have literally now tanked multiple franchises by being an offensive coordinator for the Eagles this year during the slide. He is one of those egotistical guys who leans on everybody else but takes all the credit. Like I think Bill Belichick was coaching the defense when he was there, and he was just the guy calling plays. So I'm not sure he did anything more than show up with a clipboard and a pencil in his ear. And I believe this is actually showing out as he moves around to other NFL teams and he gets exposed.
I love it. I love it when we've got all this other crossover in different parts of our lives. Like, you think Andrew knows about wine and beverages. Dude knows his football, clearly. It's amazing.
And I also am a big movie geek, but we haven't gone there yet. But we're not going to tonight. I know we're running out of time, whatever not. But My original podcast was called Real Poor. We paired wine and movies together. We went to a different movie every week. We paired a bottle with it, and we poured the bottle on air, and we talked through the bottle of wine. We talked about tasting notes, talked about the history of the wine, and then we broke down the movie as well. So that one had a 2-year run. It's now long gone, but I have an original love of being a movie reviewer.
Nice. I used to do a movie review blog and a stint on a local news show. You might be able to find some stuff.
Wow.
We did a thing called the Men on Film Movie Minute, where we would talk about upcoming releases. And we had like a 2-minute, we had to tighten it down, and we did little things. I did it with a buddy and I, a couple friends. One friend kind of helped write and produce, direct, and then my other buddy and I, we helped write it, but then we were kind of the on-camera people. But yeah. Okay, so real quick, without going like way into the weeds on movies, you have a favorite genre or era of movies?
I'm a child of the 90s, and I think that actually might be the pinnacle of script writing at the time. So I would say you could easily go with Shawshank Redemption. You can go with like Gladiator. You can go with the Braveheart, amongst many others, Ghostbusters, Alien. There's a time frame where I think we were the absolute best script writers in the world. We were mixing genres. We were making comedies and things with, like, Die Hard was originally just a terrorist film and then became a heist film, which I think was a brilliant twist. And then I think getting Bruce Willis on there, who at the time was just known for moonlighting,
yes,
and said, you know what, this guy's charismatic, he's interesting, let's go ahead and do that on an action star and see what happens. I think that's when the magical time of movies was at its pinnacle. And it's nothing against other years and other decades and stuff like that. Every one of them has its own feel and vibe, and all of them are great in different ways. But I feel like I'm so biased because that's when I grew up on it. But there was a time when I would have easily gone to see a movie a week and never seen a bad movie that entire year. Versus now, when I go to the movies, I will see things that challenge me, things that are interesting and dark and twisted and whatever not. But a lot of the movies I see now, I don't want to see again. Like Oppenheimer was great the first watch. I'm not going to see it again.
Right.
Barbie was great as a first watch. I don't need to see that a second time. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with those films. But the ones that I saw in the time of the 90s, I would watch 20 or 30 times, not once.
We are kindred spirits, my friend.
Well, we're 100%. Probably the same age, and that makes it
No, yeah. I mean, I go back and rewatch so many movies from the 80s and the 90s, early 2000s. And, but yeah. A lot of more modern movies, I will watch them, I will enjoy them, but they don't necessarily always have that rewatchable factor.
Well, I think we have lost joy in movies. I think we don't do that anymore. I mean, things like Parasite wins, things like Joker wins, and those are great movies because they're well crafted, but there's no joy in them.
Oh, they're hard to watch though, man.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Now there are movies that are joyless and really horrible and hard to watch, like Hereditary, that I will go back to watch to catch things again. Like what? Like but it's not like I don't feel like doing anything else, I'm just gonna watch this. Like normally it's like I kind of like something gets stuck in my craw and it's like no, I need to go back and rewatch this so I can, but I'm looking for something very particular or like an underlying theme like the whole time I'm watching it. Almost like homework or research, where like just recently I rewatched Weird Science just because, right? It's not, by today's standards, it's not like the best movie or a perfect movie, but it's a damn enjoyable movie,
Sure, yeah.
And lots of fun. I also rewatched Airheads. You remember Airheads? Steve Buscemi, Brandon Fraser, Adam Sandler, Michael McKean, Michael Richards. I mean, there's Ernie Hudson. There's so many people in that movie.
I'm surprised you don't have a Grim Reaper on your shoulder to remind you that you're going to die.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well done. That's how you know somebody's actually watched the movie, because they multiple times, because you remember the tattoo. What's with the tattoos? That was Joe Montana, right?
Yeah.
Is the DJ. Yeah. So sorry, Mike. I know we're trying to not leave you out tonight because we were staying with
90s are the only movies that I actually know a little bit about. So,
and also like mostly metal music in that. So that should be closer to your.
I've watched Airheads many times.
Yeah. Super fun. Super fun. Just like this show. This has been awesome. Andrew, I've been dying to have you come on and do this with us. You did not disappoint, sir.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad it was worthy.
You rode with all of my terrible picks. You helped Mike with his really good picks. I love it. It's what I was hoping the show would be. I'm not disappointed at all. It was really good.
Well, I had a good time. This is not normally a time that I'm available, so I will not be able to come on very frequently, but we'll do this again for sure.
Hell yeah, man. Well, we can we could do a special edition for Sir Andrew Stiles. We'll knight you. Yeah, man, this was awesome. I really do appreciate you making the time for us. So
my pleasure being here, and I cannot wait to share more games with you guys in the future.
Hell yes. And then Wine Cellar coming soon. You'll hear about it because we'll be talking about it. So if you're paying attention to the channel, you will already be in the know because we're sharing it all over the place anyways. Mike, you got anything else? You got?
I'm genuinely excited to play Wine Cellar. Happy for you, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Very excited. And again, Vincent Dutrait art, like, are you kidding me? Like your first game published and you're just going to have one of the best artists in the industry.
I'm a big believer that you got to pick the right audience, and I picked the right publisher. Now,
he
had to say yes, but he was in my top 5 publishers for that game for that very reason, and because I saw Raw. And I was like, yep, he knows what he's doing. He'll make it good, whatever it is. And this game needs to be pretty to sell to everybody. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be pretty to sell to board gamers because they'll buy Concordia. But I want to sell this game to every person who likes wine in the world at some point. I want it to be the Christmas gift for people who that you like wine. And I want it to be the kind of thing that, you buy for $15-20 and throw it in a stocking at Christmas, or you throw it as a housewarming gift or something like that for the person who is christening their new wine cellar or something like that. Any kind of reason to give a gift. It needs to be the kind of thing that you just grab and purchase, not something you have to go look up, go to a specialty store.
No.
And the only way to make that happen is to make it as pretty as you possibly can.
And also like so accessible. I mean, just you talking about the rule set and everything and the rules overhead, so accessible. I mean, nothing against viticulture or crank it up a level and go to Vinos, right? But like, those are not necessarily like, hey, this is the first board game I ever played. I just bought this off a shelf. Like, no. Like Wine Cellar definitely feels more down that avenue. And so, yeah, I love it. I love your vision for it. I think it's going to be awesome.
Based on what you explained in the component list on the back of the box, I assume that box is smaller.
I have not felt it. I don't know. Like I'm going to hold it in my hands next week and I'm going to know how big it is. I am dying to find out how big he made those bottles, right? Like, I don't know if they're huge. Like the ones that I made were like 8.5 inches as a prototype. Like they're huge. Like, because I want to see them across the table and stuff like that. I have no idea I made them the width of a piece of paper and then stacked them down the paper so I could cut them out basically.
Oh, sure.
But I'm curious to see how big he makes those. And I have no idea, but I'm assuming the box is a reasonable size because it's not like 25th Century makes gigantic box games. Almost all their stuff is a very reasonable, easy to throw into a cart while you're shopping, not something you got to get a special cart for. So we'll see.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, this has been great. Again, Andrew, thank you so much. Thank you for indulging us. We went long. We went all over the place. We got to talk some football for Mike and I. That's always good because there's not a ton of gamers that actually give a shit about sports. So when we've got one that is also passionate about his team and it's a sport we love, it's like, let's go, man. Let's,
if you want to chat next week, we can after this weekend. We can see if I'm crying or not.
No, you guys have a home game.
When you guys beat the
5.5
Bucks, I'll
point
be texting
favorite.
you.
Yeah,
And
I
you're
feel
going to
like
make the NFC Championship game. I'm very confident in it, sir.
so. Here's the thing: I almost want to root for the Packers, not because I want to root for the Packers, but because I want to beat their asses to go to the championship. I want to stare them down and run over them on the way to the Super Bowl. I think that'd be amazing. I know I'm taking too many steps forward, but we got to handle the Pack. Or we got to handle the Bucks, and the Bucks have their own fire them cannons. Yeah, of course, Wayne. Appreciate that.
Wayne's from Tampa.
And
Or in
they
Tampa,
have some tools on that team that scare me. Baker not so much, but Mike Evans and Chris Godwin can take the top off the defense, and our secondary is one of our weaknesses. So if we're not getting pressure on him and we're not forcing the issue, that one could get ugly and it could turn into a shootout. So I really need Gibbs and Monty to run it over them, but they have really good defensive line strength. So it would be very serious to see how Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker handle that interior line and hopefully open some gashing holes. But I see that game being a 24-30 game, and I hope we have the 30.
I mean, here's the thing is I thought the Browns never should have got rid of Baker Mayfield, but also Baker Mayfield may be Baker and help the Lions win that game. Just saying.
No, I feel like Baker couldn't stay in Cleveland. Cleveland is one of the special places like the Lions that just can't get out of their own way in a lot of ways.
I lost all respect for them when they traded for Deshaun Watson. I just did
that is going to set that franchise back as far as I'm concerned. Not that he's not talented, but he's not the right character person to put in a locker room like that and expect him to lead men.
You need veterans to keep a guy like that in line. A guy like that cannot just have free reign and run rampant because he clearly does not make good decisions.
Better for Baker that he went to LA and got to just be a gunslinger. And then from that, he went to a team that needed a quarterback and thought he was good enough, and he proved them right. So I feel like he has the right supporting staff. He's in the right place with the Bucks, and he's dangerous where he is because that team is built to have a quarterback but not need an all-time great.
Right.
The Browns.
So there you go, Wayne. I gave you credit for your firing the cannons. You have a good and worthy team, and I am a little bit afraid of you this week, but at the same time, I think we're going to pull it off because people don't know how much passion and fire the Detroit area has for football because we've had it so bad for so long. If you go to that stadium this weekend, you will have your teeth rattled.
Yeah.
And even Matthew Stafford, who knew what he was getting into, was rattled enough to burn extra timeouts before the third quarter.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a home court advantage that people have not seen outside of Kansas City.
Sorry, Wayne. I haven't liked Tampa Bay since Warren Sapp and Warwick Dunn were running out on the field for them. It's been a while. Yeah, Mike Allstott, baby. Go Purdue, boil up. Let's go. My wife's a Purdue grad, so I got to pull for any former Purdue players. But yeah, man, I'm pulling for the Lions. I wanted the Packers to beat the Cowboys. They did their job. Now they can lose and they can wet the bed. But I do kind of like your scenario too, where you guys embarrass them. That's almost better. Two teams from the North playing. Yeah. There's something real tasty about that.
That said, I do have a soft spot for Purdy, and I like McCaffrey, and I like the 49ers. I like the way they've built their franchise. I like watching them play. So I get to win either way. If the 49ers stomp the Packers, I'm happy. If the Packers win, that means hopefully we get to face them to go to the Super Bowl, which would be amazing.
I mean, I'm still running on 40-year-old nostalgia for the Niners with Joe Montana. So, you know, like, the soft spot will almost always be there until they do something. This is going to sound
like a homerism, but because my team was so bad growing up, I watched the 49ers to find out what football was supposed to be played like. So, yes, I'm a huge Ronnie Lott.
Roger
Jerry Craig.
Rice. Yes.
Jerry Rice. Joe Montana, obviously. But all those guys were my heroes. And I remember painting the 49er logo and stick it on my wall because I actually was like using that as a template for how football should be played, not the crap I was watching.
Yeah. I mean, again, once we got out of like what 1987, 88 as a Bears fan, I mean, it's been downhill since then. We had a little bright spot with Lovey in the mid 2000s.
Okay, well, you guys did the wrong thing with Lovey though, because Ron Rivera was the heart and soul of that defense when he was running it, and you let the wrong guy stay and you let the wrong guy go.
Here's the thing. Lovey had to let Ron Rivera go because the Bears, being the Bears, would have let Lovey go at the first sign of trouble and hired Ron Rivera. And Lovey didn't want his replacement sitting there next to him holding a clipboard.
That is the truth.
But you are 1,000,000% right, because that Bears defense with Ron Rivera coaching it, Peanut Tillman, Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs. I mean,
yep. That was a great defense. Yeah.
Insane. I mean, we had, before we gave him to the Patriots, we had Roosevelt Colvin, also Purdue grad, but Colby got a couple Super Bowls with the Patriots right after that. I mean,
that
Mike Brown
was so good it made Rex Grossman look good, and Rex Grossman didn't bother reading a playbook.
That's why they would have had a much better chance.
I love that story.
This is why I will never complain about Jay Cutler, because we went to a Super Bowl with Rex
Grossman didn't bother reading the scouting report for the Super Bowl. How
you guys would have
in God's net, like, that's just unbelievable to me that you get the biggest game in your career and you don't take it seriously.
Devin has, I mean, we were so good.
Yeah,
we were so good. I honestly believe if we had started Kyle Orton and just let him manage a game, we would have won.
That's what
in fact, you should have Tanya Harding him. You should have just taken out his knees.
No doubt.
And then Orton could have played, and he probably would have done essentially the same thing, except he wouldn't have thrown it directly at the other players.
No, also true. But, you know, the other thing is, like, most of Grossman's picks came when he tried to throw it for more than like 30 yards. And the good thing is Kyle Orton couldn't throw it farther than that. He was our Chad Pennington. He could throw it accurately like 20 to 25 yards.
Yeah, but couldn't take the top off. Yeah.
No, could not. He could grow a killer neck beard, and that's about it. Man, just such a good team. So much waste. Mike's a Colts fan. I will hate the Colts for forever because of that Super Bowl, even though I love Tony Dungy and Peyton Manning and all those dudes.
Sure. I mean, Mike, you've had it pretty good for a while, so congratulations to you. You haven't seen a bad team in a long time.
Yeah, we're finally reaching that QB purgatory that a lot of teams have faced for years. I like our rookie quarterback, and what I saw was very promising, but there's too small of a sample size to say, yeah, we got the guy.
No, I 100% agree with you that he's a freak of nature, but that doesn't mean he can play out a season. And we haven't seen defenses with enough film to see how he plays and try to find weaknesses. But I also believe that Gardner Minshew might be the number one backup quarterback in the country.
Dude's the best backup. He is the Nick Foles right now.
You didn't build your team badly, and I realize you're kind of stuck in the middle ground because of it. But I think you've got a lot of reasons to look forward to seeing what happens in the future. You got some nice talent there.
I'm incredibly optimistic, and somehow out of all of the staffers and coaches that have been bounced between Philly and Indy over the last 5 years, we ended up with the best one out of all of them, and Shane Steichen, who was the offensive coordinator when that Philly team got to the Super Bowl.
And what's Philly's offense look like?
He leaves, and that team turns into a shit show on offense down the stretch.
Yeah.
And again, Sirianni was the offensive coordinator for the Colts. So interesting how that all turned out. I just wanted to add, I fully expected the Lions to win the division this year. I mean, the Vikings are one of those every other year teams.
Yeah.
Every other year they suck, and every other year they win the division. So I didn't believe in the Packers yet because nobody knew what Love was going to become, which was unfortunately another franchise quarterback.
I really want Packers fans to suffer a bad quarterback. They have been so spoiled for so long. I just want them to go like 2 seasons where the guy they picked doesn't pan out and they got to reach for a draft pick until they get the right guy again. I am tired of them knowing how to groom quarterbacks. This is a problem.
It's insane. Yeah.
And the fact that nobody else is doing this. By the way, I have a small hope that we're going to do that with Hendon Hooker. I have a tiny little hope that Jared Goff is the guy this year and next year, and then maybe after that, Hendon Hooker can step in when Goff wants too much money or something like that, and he'll have been groomed enough in the background because he used this season to heal. So he's now fully healed. And he's been practicing fully. He's going to use this offseason to really learn the playbook and digest and stuff like that. I believe Hendon Hooker might be the face of this franchise in 3 years. I don't think it's going to be in the next year or two, but I'm hoping he can pull a Jordan Love.
I was telling Mike that the Bears need to not draft a quarterback and start him right away. They need a veteran so that whoever we have that's new can hold a clipboard for 2 damn years and learn how to play the freaking game on the NFL level without getting destroyed and ruining their body.
No, I have to disagree with you here. I think they trade this pick for a ransom and they send him to the Patriots. They get the number one up. Let him have Caleb Williams. Let him do their thing.
I don't want Caleb Williams. He's a head case.
I think he's a basket case. I think he can't transition to the NFL right away because of his head cases. I think he's incredibly talented, but I think he needs about 2 or 3 years of development. But I also believe that if you can get another fleecing like you did last year, and you can get the pick at 10 to get a wide receiver, maybe not Marvin Harrison Jr. at that point, but I think you can get some offensive line help. You can bolster your defense a little bit in the safety spot, stuff like that. I like Brisker quite a bit, but I think he needs another superhero back there.
Brisker's really good, but he needs time to cook. I mean, Brisker's got flashes of talent. What I want to do is draft like a guy in like the 3rd round, a quarterback in the 3rd round. It's not a threat to Fields. You let Fields run out his rookie contract. Then you can make a real call on how good or bad he's going to be.
Agree.
And I don't want the Bears just interviewed this week. Was it Roman, who was the Ravens quarterback, offensive coordinator?
You don't want him.
But no, because you look what he did to Lamar Jackson. He got him an MVP, but then he wrecked him. And then it took Lamar 2 years to get back to where he, needs to be. And Justin Fields is not Lamar Jackson. Calm down.
You don't want Greg Roman because he's going to run an offense like it's 1983. All he's going to do is give you an excellent run game, and your pass game is going to suffer.
Yeah.
That's why Lamar Jackson did not excel as a passer until Greg Roman left.
Yeah. Agree.
You don't want Greg Roman.
I do not want him. My terror as a Bears fan is they will hire the worst candidate possible at any given point in time. We have not had a good head coach worth keeping since Lovie Smith. And before that was worthwhile. Unfortunately, it was probably Ditka because we went through like Wannstedt, who is not very good as an NFL coach anywhere he went. And then,
Wannstedt is a lot like a Detroit Lions head coach, where actually he kept downgrading after he left the Bears. He kept going steps down and steps down. Now he's coaching, I think, high school or something like that at point. He keeps going down and he keeps failing as he goes down the ladder.
Because he failed at the Dolphins and then he went to Pitt and he failed at Pitt. And he's just put him on TV. Let the man talk about TV.
He's a regular contributor to the score. So continues to go downhill.
All right. We could go football like 2 more hours. I love how much into it that Andrew is. I love talking like Mike and I, most of the time during the week, if we're not talking about board games or the show, we are talking sports, whether we agree or disagree, but it's like long, either audio messages that we've recorded and sent to each other or, the Colts suck. They should do this. The Bears suck. They should do that. We're both diehard Cubs fans, so we can commiserate there.
I'm a Cubs fan too. I think they're going to sell Belly. I think they're going to sign him.
They got to get Belly. They got to get him. I think that the longer it goes, the better the chance they have of getting Belly because other teams are not going to overextend. And I think the Cubs have gone so small market with their signings that they've got. They already have the money, but I think that Jed Hoyer will justify spending the money to bring Belly in. You're going to have to pay him more than you want, but you need that bat.
Because I think they take a step back without him. And I don't mean that just
100%.
It's not just 20 games back. I think it's almost 60 games back. I still feel like the worst move that they made was letting Wilson Contreras go to the Cardinals. That one hurts my soul because I was at the first game when he hit that home run and the stadium was bouncing with him. I was actually at that game.
Oh my God.
So I think he is one of the most talented catchers of all time. And I realize why the Cardinals signed him, but I feel like he's one of the few guys we couldn't afford to lose.
I wish they would have kept Contreras and Schwarber out of all of them. Now, I was wearing a Chris Bryant shirt.
I love Schwarber, but he is an all or nothing guy. And I understand where you can let that go because you don't want 300 strikeouts a season.
But, I mean, so is Javi Baez. But I would have kept Schwarber over Baez. And Baez is so much fun to watch.
Javi was magical on the defensive side. He could do things that people can't do.
Yes.
He is one of the few skill sets that cannot be replaced. And so having him at shortstop meant that any possible play at second base was more than likely an out because of some weird tweak muscle that he's got. And Contreras was pinpoint accuracy. So nobody could run on them, which was spectacular. And that just doesn't exist anymore. So now we are average there, which I'm not saying we're not saving a lot of money by doing so. But that was one of the counterparts that I would say it was more necessity to spend the money on the guys who are special and difference makers, especially defensively, that can keep guys off the base paths because the way Major League Baseball is going, they want more stolen bases. They want more action on the base paths. So that's when you need even more defense against that to counteract it.
Now, I will say, I think the Craig Counsell hire with good free agent signings and bringing guys up, man, that is a difference maker. If Craig Counsell was our manager last season, we're in the playoffs. He is the difference maker.
I think it's definitely an upgrade from Rossi. I never believed that Rossi was special. I believe that Rossi was a yes man and did what he was told from above. And I wish him luck. I think he learned a ton, and I'm not saying he's a bad coach or a bad manager, but he was never going to be a difference maker for the franchise. And I hope
wonderful dude, but not the guy I wanted.
I hope Counsell can be that. And I think he's talented enough. I think he's smart enough. But I don't know how it's going to play out. And I'm very curious.
Listen, Craig Counsell's a Notre Dame graduate. That's enough said. That's enough said. He played ball for Notre Dame, graduated from here.
He won a World Series with Arizona and Miami.
Yeah, he did. He did. And he had a funky batting stance the whole time. No, I was in the bag for Counsell. The second we got him, I was very excited. I think, but again, when they signed him, I was like, oh, the Cubs are going to be in play for some like real free agents. And then we watched all of these free agents go. And I'm like, what is happening? You know, so I really hope that the Cubbies sign Belly because I think Belly is going to make a huge difference. I agree with you. Yeah. I think if he's even just as good as he was last year, which I think he'll be better, I think that is the bat that he brings is just going to really put us over. I love the Shota signing. I think Shota's really cool, a really good middle of the rotation guy.
I fully admit I know nothing about him, so I'm very curious to see how it's going to pan out.
And then we'll see. I mean, you need Justin Steele to still be good. You probably need PCA to come up, you know what I mean, and be consistent.
Agreed.
We'll see.
Remember we said earlier about how I now have a GM I think knows more than I do? I don't think that about the Cubs.
No. I did when we had Theo, but I don't trust
I agree with
Hoyer.
That. He was doing things that I felt like, okay, he knows more going on behind the scenes than I do, and I don't think that anymore.
I don't have that faith in Hoyer. I don't.
I have to disagree with a couple things.
Okay.
One, Bellinger can't have a few more home runs. I don't think his 307 batting average is sustainable whatsoever.
Okay.
I don't think he can maintain the contact rate that he had last year.
Okay.
And so I think maybe he hits in the 30s in home runs. He really hasn't since his rookie year. So I don't know how sustainable his production from last year is because the year before he was abysmal. He was a liability at the plate. So there's a chance that he could actually regress from last year.
I actually fully accept what you're saying about regression to the mean, but I also feel like he presented a level of glue in that framework of the offense that he was getting quality at bats even when he wasn't producing, to the point where the guys behind him, in front of him, were producing better. So he was lifting the boats, not necessarily him being the producer himself. And I pay attention to that when I watch baseball. I pay attention to how guys do in front and behind a player. And that's why I think he's important to the team, not because he's going to hit the same numbers again.
And I think Council's going to lead off with Ian Happ, and I think you're going to see Belly bat third, because you're going to want your best players at the plate at the most time. So like Belly at batting fourth and fifth, well, in theory, on paper, makes sense. But if we've got guys on base and and we're stranding runners and Belly's on deck, it does us no good if he can't actually get up there. And so, yes, Mike, there might be a regression, but I think the regression might come because he's getting more at bats, but I still think you're going to see productivity out of him. But please continue with your other points.
I also believe that there's something to do with Wrigley Field with certain players. I'm not saying there's a magic there, but I think that there's a comfortability around that stadium that for some players they read into and other players they don't. And so I'm not saying he won't regress, but I don't think it'll be the deep regression I think you're leaning toward. But go ahead.
The other one is, besides his arm, I felt like there were a lot of times where Contreras was a liability at catcher. I don't think he called a very good game. I actually felt like the pitching staff improved when he went somewhere else.
Okay.
Because also the Cardinals pitching staff got worse when he was calling games there.
I concede the point, but I also believe that that's because he's still so young. I feel like that's part of what catchers grow into as they get older. They get wiser and smarter. And so I think that's a development issue more than a player talent issue. But I concede your point. The pitching staffs did look better when he left.
He's also a terrible pitch framer.
And
he went to the Cardinals, who just had one of the greatest defensive catchers retire of
all time.
Mm-hmm. If anybody could develop Contreras, it would be a Molina. And they didn't see an improvement in him defensively. They actually removed him from catching responsibilities at a certain point during the season. Not to mention that he's 31 now. Now I know that he did not. He's 28. He's younger than I thought. No.
I stopped following him when he went to the Cardinals, so I cannot compare anything to what you're saying. I stopped watching. So
I think he was a plant. The Cubs are paying him under the table to be awful and to sabotage the Cardinals. And I fully endorse this. Anything he does bad at the Cardinal, I'm fine. Because you talk about guys looking comfortable at Wrigley Field. I'm sick of watching how well Albert Pujols hit year after year after year at Wrigley Field. So, we owe them a Wilson Contreras to then go and be terrible there.
Yeah, there's Contreras is 31. Now I know he didn't play catcher until he came to the Cubs. So that was a position he never really played. Remember, they were using him in left field for a while. And then they're like, oh, this Schwarber guy can't catch. Let's try Contreras back there. And so and props for switching positions at that age. But
with the quick twitch skills of his running, and then also with that arm snap, I believe it was a natural transition for him. But I also think there's a time limit on it because catchers don't have those legs that long.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Anyway,
that's fair.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Mike. I think you're making some very good points, and I can't counter them.
I still want Belly. I don't care. I still want Belly.
He was also recently coached by a catcher. His name was David Ross. But I just never felt, other than his arm, I felt like he was a defensive liability. So great hitter, but that's when it comes to catchers. There's a lot more important responsibilities than just hitting.
Right.
But that's what's fun about these things. We can agree to disagree and still be cool.
Baseball more than other things. I feel like things are more empirical in football, where like things are yes or no. Whereas I think baseball is the ultimate what if sport because you got to play 7 games to find out who's better. You can't play it once. Yeah, I feel like I can make lots of arguments in football I cannot make in baseball.
And
there's a ton of nuances,
the number of games, and Mike's nuances. You're right, Mike.
Nuances just from team to team, ballpark to ballpark, league to league, season to season. I mean, it's very difficult to continue with consistent production from year to year in baseball. I think more than any other sport.
Yeah,
and I guarantee you, in football, you cannot have a quarterback on acid tripping balls do near as well as you can as a pitcher in baseball and pitch a no-hitter. It's just not going to happen.
You mean ayahuasca?
There was a pitcher in the 70s that was on acid. I forget it. Yeah. Was it for the Pirates?
I don't remember.
I thought it was for the Pirates. Anyways, I love sports. I love when we have another sports fan on. It's great. But I think we have officially lost everybody, either because we were talking.
Oh yeah, sports, people have been gone for at least an hour, I think,
or that it's midnight. But
this is purely self-indulgent.
Oh, who cares? That's the point of the show, right? Is Mike and I have a show for self-indulgence, if nothing else. But yeah, I got to go to bed. So, Andrew, it has been our distinct pleasure and honor to have you, sir. This was awesome. Clearly, we were meant to be friends because we could all just talk sports. We could talk board games and have an amazing time. Yeah, Bobby, you're still here. Wait, there he is.
Oh, wow. There we go. Cool, guys. Thanks. I'm sorry I hope we didn't bore you with all the sports talk.
Well, Bob's a Dolphins fan, so he's had a rough for a while. He's got a
bright future too. I think they have they got some pieces down there. They need a draft or two to make up some holes and get a little tougher.
They need a quarterback.
I'm not sure Tua's the answer, but I'm not sure he's bad either. I don't think he's terrible.
He's not terrible, but he's not going to be the piece that gets you over the hump. Now you could surround a good defense, and stuff like.
I have a feeling that Tua and Bryce Young are actually the same guy. I feel like both of those guys, when they're comfortable and they have more talent than teams, are special. Mm-hmm. When they don't have more talent on their teams, they're not special. They might be the new Mendoza line in 5 years.
Yeah.
They might be the guy who's literally average.
I can see it.
Man,
I
don't know that they can move on from him just because he had one bad playoff game.
Oh, I agree. I don't think it's time to give up on him. I'm just saying that he is special because of precision, accurate timing routes, the same way that Bryce Young is. And he's also undersized. He moves a little better. I'll give him that. But if they don't build a Detroit Lions offensive line in front of that guy, he may have a number of big pressure bad games at key points.
I mean, the problem is Tua is not the guy. Tua is not the guy to put the team on the shoulders and win you the game. He's just not. He's not like
he's a cog. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a cog, and you can win. Clearly, you can win in the NFL. You can win a Super Bowl with that because Trent Dilfer, right, has a Super Bowl ring. It's not because he's an amazing Hall of Fame quarterback. No, he was a cog in a machine that, with an amazing defense. Like you can win with those guys, but they're not going to be the reason you won. It's Tua's not going to have an MVP season and win you a Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. That's all. That's my only point about Tua. But
all right, let's try to say goodbye one more time. Let's let it go.
Let's do it. It's been awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. You got anything else, sir?
I don't. It's been a blast.
Man, I can't wait to have Andrew on again. We could just do a sports one. We could just do sports games and then find a way to. Aaron's still here. Aaron, good to see you, man. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah,
appreciate you. Everybody, have a great night. Thank you so much for watching. For the Board Game Rundown, I've been Tim.
That was Mike.
Yes,
and I'm Andrew.
Woo! We will see you next time. And keep an eye out for Wine Cellar. We'll be talking about it.
Thanks, guys.